Welcome to the November 5th, 2019 Board of Commissioner meetings. Please silence your cell phone pages and other electronic communication devices. And agendas are located at the back of the chambers. And we do have speaker requests. If anybody wants to speak, please visit with Ms. Holly to the left of the dais here, and she will get you a request form. Next, we'll have a moment of silent reflection, and this is a big thank you to our men and women in uniform and their families, past, present, and future. On behalf of our Pennington County Commission, we thank you for your service to our country. So we'd like to do a silent reflection for our men and women in uniform.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we'll have the review and approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Drews.
Oh,
Second.
Commissioners,
Second by
one moment, sorry.
Santo.
Holly's.
Go ahead, Holly.
We have a request to pull one of your executive session items out and separate it from the end and move it to items from, move it to an agenda item prior to items from the auditor.
Okay, so one of the executive sessions is before.
Yes, before items from the auditor, just to address that one issue due to a timing conflict this afternoon.
And we have that on our agenda that way already.
Yes, no, ma'am.
No.
We're gonna pull one out and make a separate session.
It's on the agenda, it just wasn't in
You
that
know
order.
which one is the executive session based on SDCL?
It's a personnel issue, ma'am.
So 1-25-2-1?
Correct.
Okay,
That's to pull it to after item 16, just before.
so we'll make
Correct.
that
Okay.
16A if we could, or B, how about B? We'll make the first one A. Tax deed is 16A, and 16B will be the executive session board, if that's okay?
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So motion with the change, is that okay with the first and second?
With the friendly amendment, right? That'd be-
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item number 5 is the first reading and public hearing of ordinance amendment to Pennington County to amend the adopted Pennington County Comprehensive Plan. And the presentation is by Matrix.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
PJ Conover, Director of Planning Department. What you have before you is the View to 24 document and Mr. Rick Rust from Matrix Design Group. With the current comprehensive plan originally adopted by ordinance, the View to 24 document under current statute shall be approved by resolution. We anticipate a number of future hearings relative to the View to 24 document, and corrections will be made moving forward. Today's hearing is a presentation by Rick Rust of Matrix, and the process of redoing the county's comprehensive plan began as far back as 2016 with the signing of Matrix and continued on with a number of interviews, public meetings, and hearings, which has brought us to where we are today. The document before you was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission on July 8th of 2019. And with that, today's meeting is an opportunity for Mr. Rust to go over the process and purpose of the comprehensive plan, touch on some of the major topics the Planning Commission tackled, and to offer guidance to the board as future meetings are planned for the View to 24 document. And with that, I'll leave the floor to Mr. Rick Rust.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for having me here this morning. As PJ said, today is a chance to get you all familiar with where we've been and how we got to this point and what is contained in the comprehensive plan, and to get you set up for follow-up hearings on this individual topics that are covered in the different elements that are there. So today we're going to give you kind of an overview of the document. We want to highlight the public engagement that's been involved over the last couple of years and what we did for that. Talk about the comprehensive plan and how it's constructed, how you should look at it, and what some of those little symbols and numbers all mean to you as you go through this. And then to have some of the comments and discussion that came from the Planning Commission and some key features that they highlighted in their review over the last 10 meetings they held. So as I have spoken with the commission before, but you now have several new members, so I'm going to go back a little bit and talking about the general idea of what is a comprehensive plan. It really serves as your foundational document. So the graphic is illustrative in that fact is that everything else that's above it really should be helping to implement the comprehensive plan. And the idea is that it is consistent with the rest of the pieces. As you go up the pile, the planning tools get more specific, sometimes more area specific or site specific, but the comprehensive plan should be your overall guidance for where the county is going on a policy level. There's three key features of a comprehensive plan. It is a long-term plan. By design, you see the view to 2040. That's not by mistake. It's supposed to be a 20-year kind of look out to the future and setting parameters for that. It's also comprehensive in nature, a broad range of topics, everything from the land use, which you normally assume in a planning document, to things as public facilities and services, health and safety, and other aspects that the county needs to look at for projects. And then the important part too is it's also general. In fact, in many states, a comprehensive plan is referred to as a general plan. And that is, it doesn't give you the specifics on exactly how you go about approving a project in the future, what you should be looking at. We'll give you an example of this and how it applies to your plan a few slides from now. The basic purpose is to set a future vision. Where is the county going over the next 20 years? It's not where you are today, but where you're trying to get to. Provide the land use diagram, the goals, policies, implementations that'll help get there. It'd be a tool for both land use as well as resource management ideas and a framework for updating other planning tools. This is the purpose statement that was in the document itself. Won't read that all to you today, but the 4 points I talked about are the basic ideas of what we're after. PJ mentioned earlier, one of the key items of why we're updating the plan at this point is because a lot of it was considered to be out of date. Way back in the history of things, due to a court order overturning the comprehensive plan that was in play prior to this, this plan was put together fairly rapidly, which had some issues that we're going to talk about, such as the PUD sensitive land use designation a little later. But a lot of the information that was contained was not fully focused. It did not have a large amount of public input as it was developed and didn't have the opportunity to hear what the people wanted to have out in the different parts of the community. Wanted to make sure the plan addresses current opportunities and challenges that are out in the community. In 2003, we didn't have to talk too much about solar power or alternative power implementation, that bikes were something to be considered for much use as part of your tourism footprint nowadays. Correcting inconsistencies and redundancies. One of the big ones in there was the actual application of the land use designation that you had. There were over 5,000 properties in the county that did not meet the requirements of the designation that they were within. And that'll be something we'll talk about in a few minutes, how that was dealt with. And then overall, just restructuring it for ease of use. Everything's put into an element. All the materials should be easily discoverable as you go through and use this in your future decision-making processes. Once we have the comprehensive plan, we also will provide a memo to the county about other activities. As I mentioned before, this is the foundational document, so there's other documents that might need some updates to implement the general plan, and also some updates just to reflect the changing of the world as gone by. So that could be the zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations, nuisance ordinance 106, and the floodplain ordinance are all things that we'll look at to see how these might need to be updated in the future. So this is the framework, what we've gone through, very systematic kind of approach to developing the comprehensive plan. Our key goal here is to make sure that we develop a plan that reflects what Pennington County wants to be and reflect what it is and how it needs to stay. We're your technical advisors in that sense, so this is not containing policies that we think are great ideas, but this are things that we really heard from those that we talked to out in the county as we did the development of the plan. So we've gone through a community assessment. There is an existing conditions document that's available on the website, which provides a more detailed look at some of the existing conditions and trends facing the county. The comprehensive plan itself contains very short 1 or 2 page pieces up front that highlight some of the key existing conditions and trends, but there's more of that in that complete document. Now we're at task 7 right now, which is the final adoption process. The Planning Commission has gone through 10 workshops starting in January of this year, and made a recommendation for approval based on a set of changes. You have a matrix in front of you today, which goes through their documentation of all the things that they talked about, and we'll highlight some of their changes as we wrap up the presentation. Now, public engagement was an important piece. As I said, the plan was meant to listen to the people, to understand what it is they wanted to have come out of all this. In fact, the structure of the plan with the 3 geographies and the needs of the different geographies was one of the key features that came out of early meetings on that. And given that look at the Black Hills, the central Pennington County area, and the Eastern Plains areas, even the public engagement was designed to elicit those 3 areas, which is why we had separate meetings at each of the 5 times in those areas. And each of the workshops covered a different aspect of the plan. We started out with community visioning. We talked about community assessment, that looking at issues and opportunities. We looked at alternatives. What were the changes that need to be made, both from land use as well as policy? We looked at some draft concepts. We came back to them with their comments and helped them, every one of these steps, help them refine what they were telling us so that we better understood what they were after and what were the kind of changes they were looking to be made. And then finally, we talked to them about the draft comprehensive plan, which was actually a little more than a year ago now when we had that available for them to look at. So just to highlight, we tried to look at some different areas. In the hills, we did go to Hill City for many of our meetings, Keystone for one. We were in Rapid City for all the ones in central Pennington, and then we used Wall as our headquarters, if you will, for the Eastern Plains area. And we did get attendance by individuals from different parts of that Eastern Plains area at the meetings, even given the distance. Some folks from the far north edge of that Eastern Plains area, as well as some of the middle parts between Box Elder and Wall also attended those workshops. Attendance was scattered depending on the area. We had anywhere from 5 people to 30, and they kind of depended on the location and the interest at the time of what we were talking about, I suppose. On the right side of the screen there, it kind of shows how we went about this, and that's documenting what people's issues and concerns were, and then we actually refrained back to them what were the policies that were designed in the document to help address what they talked to us about. So we tried to provide a linkage between we heard you, we listened to you, this is what we were doing about that, and then get their feedback on what we were proposing to do to see if that was in line with the public's take. And then again, with the 10 different workshops with the Planning Commission, we also had about 30 interviews with different individuals. A lot of these were held at some of the cities in the county, and for those, they would either have their staff, their elected officials, and also invite other local business and community leaders into these meetings. And so we got a broad look at what were the needs of these different areas through those venues as well. The website, viewto2040.com, is where all the materials can be found as you go through this process. So if you wanted to look at the current version of the comprehensive plan, it's online right there on the front page, as well as there's an online library under the resources menu that will give you access to the existing conditions and trends and newsletters that are available from the back of our timeline. Let's look at our comprehensive plan. Contains a vision in the front, and this was a vision statement, and certainly can be edited by the commissioners here if you'd like to go through that. But Pennington County is a unique part of South Dakota that is built on a sense of community and frontier spirit. We pride ourselves on protecting the natural, cultural, and historic resources that help define our social identity and values. The county continues to grow in a manner that maintains water and air quality, improves career and housing opportunities, and retains our excellent schools and quality of life. Now, again, this is what people would say in 2040 describing the county. This is their vision for what the county is now and what it will be in the future. This was developed working with the different workshops, the 2 different sets of workshops in those 3 different areas. Now, the plan organization, as I mentioned before, we did recognize the 3 distinct geographies, being the Black Hills area, central Pennington, and this reflects the Rapid City area municipal planning organization boundary, is how that was defined after a number of looks at how we might define central Pennington. But again, it was looking at this more urbanized footprint of the county as being different in its needs. and then the Eastern Plains area defined on the far end. As you see, going through all those, each area has its own little icon, which is the main icon you'll see on the front of the report, but it's also the icon you'll see as you go through the goals and policies in the document. And there are some policies that don't apply to certain areas, and depending which icon shows up, it tells you where they apply. And this is also something that we look for your input on. If you think there's some policies that are good for one spot but not another, we can always take an icon off. If the icon's not there, it doesn't apply to it. So you'll see some policies specifically about agricultural needs that relate to the Eastern Plains area, and you'll just see the icon for the Eastern Plains, or that green farm field kind of look icon. And you'll see some others that are perhaps more for the hills, and they'll just have that icon. So looking at those is important as you go through the document, and they can certainly be modified if you think they should be more restrictive, only applying to certain spots, or if you think they should apply to a broader area than what is being talked about. In the comprehensive plan itself, it's broken down into elements. There's one term for it on the planarese kind of thing, but also just chapters. But they're topical chapters that are used to guide and help you find what you're looking for. Everything from land use in chapter 3 to natural and cultural resources in chapter 10. But again, highlighting for you the comprehensive nature of what's being covered by the comprehensive plan. There's also chapter 11 at the back, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it's your implementation program or the actions that you'll take to make the plan move forward. As you look through the elements, you'll see a number of goals. So within a given element, you could have anywhere from 3 to 10 different goal topics, and these are literally based on different topic areas that need to be covered. And the goal describes an end state. It's not an action item itself, but it's talking about where you're trying to go under that specific topic. A policy is a statement that guides a specific course of action as you move towards that goal, and something that you'll use going forward in your decision-making process. As you look at the policies, you'll see a number of common verbs, whether we want to consider, coordinate, develop, encourage, ensure. These are often areas where the political bodies would like to be engaged as far as talking about how they want to describe what you're doing in the future. And a big part of this is the conversation about the terms should and shall. Now, in the Planning Commission, there were actually a few times we used will, and they said, no, we got to change that. We're going to stick to just should or shall. And that was one of their recommendations in a lot of places. But this is also an area where there is some consideration from the political standpoint, looking at how you want to treat these. The shalls really should be seen as something you really want to do and are going to hold yourselves to it. The shoulds are more that you're going to look at circumstances and they could or could not apply depending on the circumstances involved. But the shalls really represent an important guidance for yourselves as far as where you want this plan to take you and how you consider applying it to future development projects and resource management. Now, all the elements have a common structure. As you're flipping through there, you'll see an introductory piece in the front. As I mentioned, it's a shortened version of that existing conditions document that's up front. And then you'll get into the actual goals and policies. So on this page, you'll see the 3 items of those greenish boxes on the left side, and the big print says goal. So those are the goals, obviously. And underneath them are a set of policies that help to implement that goal. On this page, these policies all apply to all 3 geographies, but you can see how the icons are used in the actual document pages to reflect where it applies. This is the implementation section. This is chapter 11 at the end of the document. Now, these are actions that the county will take. Now, many of the policies are self-implementing. They say the county shall do something, and you don't necessarily have to have another implementation to make it happen. But there were some actions that we felt would be appropriate. These are items that you're sort of dedicating the county to do, and so they're important for you to look at these and see if they're appropriate based on the end state of where you're going. These also have resource allocation items attached with them because these could entail some budgetary concerns. So I want you to look at those as you go through the document. There's an action number on the left side for your reference purposes, the description of the implementation there in the middle. There's a column there that tells you what goal this is actually supporting so that you can refer back to the document and see what that goal is. And then finally, it tells you about when we are looking to get this going. When does this thing need to be started? Short term is something you're going to start in the next 1 to 3 years. Midterm is something you're going to do in 4 to 7 years. Long term is greater than that 7-year period. And there's some items that are shown as ongoing, such as ADA compliance at the bottom there, number 10. That's an ongoing item that you would pursue throughout the course of this plan. One of the key changes was on the future land use map and the designations that are in there. So I'm going to step through that for you a little bit here this morning. One of those, and on this chart, we have your current 2003 land use designations on the left side of the chart, and we have the proposed 2040 on the right side of the chart. This first step was one of the bigger changes I talked about earlier, and that is about taking agriculture and making it into one designation instead of keeping it as two. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about how the comp plan relates to zoning, but it's important here that just because we set a lower number for agricultural overall, that doesn't mean that the zoning can't require a larger minimum lot size. So you can have a zoning designation that has a requirement for 40 acres. That's still consistent with this overall agricultural comprehensive plan designation. You could even set a new one for perhaps areas talked about in the Eastern Plains for maybe 160 acres. And you might look at that, why you might want to do that is in the future, you could have, the idea was in the Eastern Plains and some of the larger agricultural concerns, you might want to have less controls, less requirements, less caring about what happens on those properties, less time they have to come down to the county. And that's something you can do in the zoning code. Right now you have 2 zones, limited agricultural and general agriculture. You could have another designation even beyond that that has an even larger lot minimum that might apply to some of these larger ranches and farms on the eastern side for the sole purpose that when your zoning code can reduce the requirements on how much the county gets involved in their business on their properties. This has, I want to emphasize again, this has nothing to do with the taxation rates upon these properties. That is established through other means, their economic viability and how much they actually produce off those properties and a few other concerns done by the assessor's office, but it's not based on the designation. So we're looking to take your current greater than 40 and greater than 10 categories and boil them down to one that says greater than 10. And again, we'll use zoning to get to higher numbers beyond that and implement this. I mentioned before we had over 5,000 properties that did not meet the minimums of the agricultural zone as currently designated. A lot of those were in that 40 category and they had much smaller lots than that 40 minimum. So this also helps bring them back into being, from not being conforming to a chance to be conforming with the comprehensive plan. The low density residential, or 1 dwelling unit per 3 acres, was divided into 2 other sections. There was a lot of comments in the public about wanting to have a 5-acre minimum as being a preferable use in some areas as this rural transitional area between the agricultural uses, and also about having a 1-acre lot size. And so this was broken down into 2 different designations. And again, a lot of this, when we looked at properties, we went through all the parcels in the county, and if we had properties that were only at 1.5 acres right now, we could give them a designation of rural residential instead of forcing them into that low density residential for which they were not consistent. So a big thing here was to make it consistent with current parcels and current uses. So we didn't change a lot of the land uses in general, but we wanted to make sure that people could be found to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. In some areas, mostly on the fringes of the Rapid City metropolitan area, but there was also the look at, we don't really have a full palette of residential categories in the county's comprehensive plan. Now, not all of these are currently used, even in the proposal we have before you. For instance, the urban residential would really be something that could provide for apartment type units. Now, that's not currently used, but this would provide you the ability to have that in the future should that be something the county wanted to do over the next 20 years. So this provides a much better split between designations and again reflecting what is out there. The current designation going from half acre to 6,500 square foot lots brings in quite a range of different kinds of residential, and we wanted to provide a little more definition to what's out there. For commercial through industrial, it basically didn't change. The general commercial was changed to a neighborhood commercial, And a lot of that was just in the namesake. For a lot of public comment we got was looking to have more locally serving commercial, and the focus of that designation was more on the locally serving commercial, as opposed to highway services, which is now referred to as commercial, which is designated to have the tourist serving, the regional serving, and other uses that are in the county. Public lands has now been changed to open space. Typically, ownership is not the way of defining a land use designation, but the uses of these properties are for an open space activity in the broadest sense of how that might be applied. Now, everywhere that is designated as this public land, and now it's called open space, is public land. It is not privately owned property. The only areas that got this are the federal government and the state government as far as the properties that are out there. PUD sensitive. In looking back through history, working with staff, etc., there's a good chance PUD sensitive was created for lands where they didn't quite know what to do with them at the time. Overall, we're moving away from planned unit developments, and the reason for that is because every planned unit development is like its own zoning code, so it creates a lot of extra work for staff to track all these different zoning codes, if you will, and apply them in a broad sense. Now, if there's an area that's currently a developed PUD or a partially developed PUD, that is grandfathered in and that remains, but new areas are not to be designated in the future for PUD. So it's kept over as a protection for properties that are in process of being developed or already developed will stay that way. They will keep their own PUD approvals that are already there. Now, PUD sensitive, these areas were actually given a designation. We went through them, looked at what the neighbors are, what the area supports, what this area might be designated as, and actually gave them a designation. For instance, there's some large areas of PUD sensitive up the Highway 90 area. A lot of it's used for aggregate processing now, but it was all in PUD sensitive for a good part of it. So it's now been given a different designation for a rural residential category. In fact, many of the places were given a rural residential category because they were in areas that could have some development potential. There's areas up in the Black Hills that were given a lower intensity use in keeping with what other private properties are in that area. So through this also means that these properties don't have to come through and do a separate PUD application. They don't have to pay a lot of money to somebody to develop them a planned unit development proposal, and they don't develop their own set of rules. They just go by the rules that apply everywhere else in the county. So it was seen as a benefit to the landowners in a way that they don't have to go through the expense of creating a PUD in order to develop their properties. It also gave more surety as to what would actually be done in those different areas. And then since the last plan was developed, there's also a component of land that is now held in trust for the Pace Law tribe. And so that land is now shown as a white area on the map. It's an area you don't have jurisdiction over, but it is within the unincorporated lands of the county geography. And so there is now a designation to cover that. Again, you have no authority over that property, so it doesn't have any allowed uses or not, but it does designate on the map and respects that location. In the land use and housing element, the LUH element up front, it does go through and define what each of these categories are, and what are likely zoning designations that would apply to them. One thing I want to point out, and some questions that have been brought up, is this category of allowed uses. Now remember, we're a general plan, so we're supposed to be broad, and so these are the types of uses that are typical in that designation. The zoning code itself will go through each of the designations that apply, and we'll go through an exhaustive list of all the different things they mean. So if we're looking for a list that lists where a dry cleaner could go, or where you might be able to have a food processing facility, or where you might be able to do animal keeping and processing, those will be defined in the zoning code itself. But here we provide the broad designation and the broad look at land uses that are appropriate for that to guide the zoning code itself. So kind of rolls us into this, I've been alluding to a little bit, the difference between the comp plan and the zoning code. So the comprehensive plan provides the desired result, where you're going to, where you're trying to end up at. And the zoning code is kind of the how-tos. This is where you talk about setbacks, the number of animals you can keep per acre of land, the the kind of building heights that you can have in different locations, the kind of structures you can build, all that is defined in the zoning code. So I'll give you an example here. Comprehensive plan, county shall develop limits on animal keeping in residential areas. That might be a policy, but it doesn't really define exactly how you're going to do it. Now, the zoning code or a separate animal keeping ordinance would actually go into the discussion, number and type of animals by land use zone, animal equivalents, how you determine what those come out to, minimum lot sizes in zone, minimum setbacks, enclosures, et cetera, et cetera. Animal keeping is actually one of those things you want to have by right in the Eastern Plains area, but there were some components in central Pennington especially where we were getting the stories of the 99 chickens on an acre of land on 1 acre properties, and was that really appropriate, and where do they keep those chickens relative to their neighbor, as opposed to, they're closer to the neighbor's house than they are to their house. And so this is an opportunity later on to define exactly how that applies in the county. The comprehensive plan does not go to that step of actually saying how you're going to do it, but is something that you want to do. I talked about this a little earlier, so we can actually go through these designations. And the comp plan provides a minimum. The zoning code can be bigger than that. So if ag is a 10-acre minimum, we can't have a zone that has 9 acres. But we can certainly have a zone that limits us to 160 acres or 640 acres or any other number you might want, and have rules that apply to that are more appropriate for that designation. A lot of people talk about large agricultural properties and the desire to be able to site structures and put them in without having to go through a lot of discussion down here in Rapid City about what they're doing and where they're doing it. The zoning code will allow you to do that and set the right size property and distances between neighbors to allow that to go on. And that would also be the place you might talk about what you do about preservation of section lines for access purposes in the future and that type of thing. So relative to comments and discussion, as I mentioned, the Planning Commission had 10 hearings concerning this. These were all public hearings, and they did get public comment, both in written and in verbal form at their meetings. I did a similar presentation of this back January 28th, 2019. So I'm making a habit of trying to hit the winter months here and get the presentations in here. But they did spend a lot of time going through the document and spent a lot of time, as you see, through this matrix of making sure that they felt comfortable with the recommendation they were making for you. This matrix does show you everything they changed. The far column even does it in a red line strikeout format, so you can see what the text was and what they changed it to. Some key Planning Commission recommendations. So if you're to look at the whole 48-page matrix, it's a lot longer than it is actually in a read because there's a lot of blank space as we do it in this table format. But they did go through and look pretty strenuously at the use of the terms should, shall, may, etc. And one tried to make them more similar in that we didn't use will instead of shall, we used only shall. They also looked at where these should apply. So they changed a number of shalls to shoulds because they felt they needed to have more flexibility in those. And that's certainly something I would encourage yourselves to go through as you do this to the public venues to make sure you're comfortable with the shoulds and the shalls. There is a place for shells in the world. They do denote a definite direction for yourselves going forward. We'll note comprehensive plans can be amended over time, but the idea is that you're setting an overall fabric that will guide the next 20 years. So you're hoping not to change it constantly or make exceptions constantly. So think about things that have come before you in the past or things that you think might come in the future. How would you apply these different policies? And that can help you guide the decision between shoulds and shalls. There was, PJ was here for all the Planning Commission meetings, so he could tell you a little bit more on some of the details if you'd like to find out, or especially at your follow-up meetings. But updates to mining policy were something that were discussed, some wanting to have more stringent guidelines for what could happen regarding mining. Again, we need to keep in mind this general versus detailed. You do have different ordinances looking towards the types of mining that can be done, and they provide the details on how this all comes forward. What we're looking for in the general plans is providing guidance that we're looking for mining that's recognizes the environment it's in, and that it provides the protections that are appropriate. Now, the different ordinances you would do for your mining would tell you exactly how you go about evaluating those different things. But there are some general policy statements supporting the continuation of mining. Comments 59, 60, 65, and 67, for instance. There's also discussions modifying and expanding upon the reclamation and restoration requirements. There's some discussion about high impact agriculture, that is processing facilities, in one of their comments. Had a number of discussions about water quality and how we look at water quality in the future going forward. The current comprehensive plan proposes that we do implement the building codes within the county long term, and there was an addition in here to change for both the international building code as well as the residential building code to be incorporated into this. There was a goal also dealing specifically with the Spring Creek watershed that was removed, I believe, to depend more on the general conversation about water quality and quantity that was provided in the other goals, as opposed to pointing out one specific area. Now, there's a broad number of things that they talked about, obviously over 10 meetings, but these are some of the highlights of what they brought up during their presentation. Now, regarding next steps, as I said during your final adoption process at this time, what would be desired is, and staff is prepared to talk about future workshops, future hearings that you can have on this document. And the idea is for you to move forward, to hold additional public hearings on the document, and to get public input and make your final decisions on the direction for the comprehensive plan, at which point we would make a final document and it would go for adoption. And the process that will go through, staff can lead you through as you get to that point. But the document itself has been through a fairly extensive public review at this point. Not that there won't be additional comments or additional people bringing up some similar comments for your consideration, but there has been a lot of input in the development of the plan and in the review of the public draft. So that was a highlight for you. I know you had a timeline for today to get started and wanted to leave a little time if there was any discussion you wished at this point while I'm here. Otherwise, staff will guide you through your other hearings.
Board, any discussion, questions?
Madam
This
Chair.
time, Commissioner LaCroix?
Rick, first, and PJ, first I'd like to thank you guys for all the hard work that you guys did. I happened to sat through the last half of the planning commission when they were going through this, and I'm just amazed at how the planning commission, how hard they worked on this and the number of meetings they did. They had some good research, and they did their due diligence on this really hard, and the staff have too, and you guys. I mean, 30 meetings and 10 workshop meetings with the planning commission, that's a lot of work, and none of this has been easy. I mean, a lot of changes have gone through it, and I just wanted to recognize the people who worked on it and show my appreciation. And for the planning commission, it was Jim Coleman, Kathy Johnson, Travis Lester, Rich Marsh, Sonny Rivers, and Sandra Rundy, and our staff, Cassie, PJ, Conver, Jerome Harvey, Holly Hennies, Michelle Hoffman, Brittany Moulter, Julie Pearson, and Cindy Moeller, and Shannon Redberger and Dustin Willett. I mean, you guys have all, the staff and the planning commission have done some outstanding work on this. This wasn't easy. I'm glad you highlighted the mission statement, because that was one of I think, the most important things in starting this out. And I was going to read that out, but you did it. So I'm just appreciative of all the guys' hard work.
Thank you, Lloyd. I agree. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Roskinick?
Yeah, my only disappointment would be, I went to the 3 workshops in Hill City. I know they were well advertised, and yet they were very lightly attended, at least 2 of them. And so I feel sorry for the public that missed out, because they're going to be the first ones that complain when something doesn't work for them. And when they had the opportunity, I think it was 3 workshops in Hill City.
We had 5 sets of workshops in the 3 geographies. The attendance was different at the different places depending when we did it. Anymore, getting people to come to public workshops is a difficult avenue, and The website I didn't highlight on there, but for the public that's here today, as this process continues, there is a comment tab on there. If you type a comment in there, comments go to the staff as well as the consulting team and can be put into your further considerations. But yeah, it is hard to get people out on a weeknight to come and talk about something 20 years in the future. If we were talking about a rendering plant on the edge of town, it would be easy to get several hundred people there because it's very specific. It very much, they know how it touches them. And so the comprehensive plans are a little more vague for people to see exactly how it relates. But we did have some great conversations. I wanted to highlight that at all the different geographies, we had some fairly large groups at times, up to over 20 people at some of the different ones. The Rapid City meetings tended to be larger because more people living in that area, both the unincorporated and incorporated areas. Wall had a very dedicated group of people that came to all 5 of them and sat through all of those. We had a much larger crowd at the beginning, and then they sort of went down over time. Hill City, the Keystone in the Hills area was a little more hit and miss, but we had a couple of great workshops up there where we had some fairly large groups that attended, close to 20 up there. And they were more there at the beginning where we were talking about identifying what do they want us to address, what were the issues and concerns that we needed to do as far as the planning program. So smaller attendance at the very end, we told them what we were going to do. Might look at that as well. They were happy with it, looked online and it was okay, or they felt we had it under control perhaps, or got tired of it. I'm not sure which one, but we did get a lot of input at the beginning of the process, which was on what do they want addressed. And I think that was a good foundational piece for us. So success from that side, but it is hard to get people out anymore for that.
Well, yeah, they had a couple meetings at the high school. Those were lightly attended, for the auditorium that they were held in. But I think they had one at the Senior Citizen Center, and that was more public could get involved and sit down at tables and do some brainstorming. So that one was fairly well attended. You guys did a good job. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for watching for us.
So it's a living document, right? So the shalls can be turned to will, or not will, but
The shoulds.
we can change the shalls to should and the should to shalls if we think that would be warranted.
Yeah, actually, one of the policies in the land use section is about maintenance of your comprehensive plan. It would be typical to relook at this every 5 years, but you do have jurisdictions do make changes to their plans. It's hoping that you get this into a pretty narrow band of where you want to go so that you're not making changes all the time. But that is something that happens with a 20-year plan. We can't predict everything that's going to come out or every opportunity that will expose itself. And so it's important that you look towards that to the future. And if you need to make corrections, you do so, as opposed to constantly making a variance or a exception for projects.
So, sir, where do we go from here? I mean, what is our next steps on the comprehensive plan for this board?
Did you want to talk?
PJ?
That's a good question, Commissioner. So what we'd like to do is discuss some future meeting dates for the board. In consulting commission office staff, we're looking at possibility of having the first meeting on Tuesday, December 3rd, possibly starting at 8 a.m., and also the possibility of some special meetings in December and then moving into January.
Okay, so tell me, meeting, like for approval, what do you mean by December 3rd meeting and other meetings?
So for the Board of Commissioners to go through the document, suggest any changes, receive public comment, comment back on the comments that they have, and then also at those meetings, staff will track all the proposed changes, and then eventually, at the end, return with a finished document.
And you'd like that on December 3rd,
That was just the first opportunity that we identified.
okay? And that's a Tuesday, sir?
Yes, it is, ma'am.
Okay.
So PJ, are you talking about doing section by section or?
Well, the Planning Commission had a goal of doing at least 3 chapters a meeting. Sometimes they had to go back and repeat chapters because they weren't able to finish it. It's really whatever's going to work best for the board. There was a lot of public comment that took up many hours of testimony, which was great, which then slowed things down to Planning Commission, but that's exactly why we have these meetings, because we want the public comment.
Would you anticipate considerable public comment going forward too, or Do you think?
On some items, I believe there'll be more comment than others.
So I'm gonna guess maybe a special meeting instead of having it at a regular board meeting would be my suggestion, board.
And those dates have been identified as possibly Wednesday, December 4th, and/or Wednesday, December 18th.
Okay, and if you could send us out those, I don't think we have to decide today, but let's, as a board, let's look at those dates and then see which ones we want to do. I think, are we all okay with doing a special meeting, or would we like to do it during at 8 o'clock meeting? And
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto?
I think just judging by what I heard in the planning commission when we were discussing these things, as PJ said, there's different parts of this that some got a great deal of public comment and other parts of it got practically none. So I think hopefully using our memory, we can remember what sections of this got all the public comment, designate those sections for the special meeting. And the sections that didn't get a lot of response, we should cover during a regular board meeting. That's my feeling.
Well, we can go through a special meeting and see where there's public comment and then maybe put those down. And then anything from there that needs another meeting, then do it at the 8 o'clock. Because if we don't have anything, somebody might have something in between that didn't have a lot of comment the first time, but once we start discussing it, might be more.
Possibly.
So, I don't know if we need to do the 3 chapters at a time. Like one chapter might not have anything, like you said, the next chapter might be huge. So,
They had a
how
goal,
many chapters are there?
11. They had a goal of 3. If they went over that, that was fine. It was just
Okay.
a goal of 3.
Okay, but for a special meeting, how long did like 3 chapters take at a time?
Some meetings, after the regular planning commission items, they could go 3.5, 4 hours, just on the comp plan.
Okay, so suggestions from PJ
Well,
or Holly?
the sooner you can identify a special meeting, that'll help us with advertising. That'd be my suggestion.
Yeah, and those 2 dates in December worked best with what your schedules are currently. I know with Gary's travel schedule, and Mark is out of town a lot too, and Lloyd, so we were kind of looking at, the day after a regular commission meeting when hopefully you would still be in town.
Okay.
So what was that, the 4th?
And the 18th.
4th and the 18th, we could start at 9 and go till noon. For the advertisements, we'll make sure they're accurate and.
Okay. So,
That works for
board?
me at this point in time.
Any other suggestions? Kind of just, I think, we'll discuss and then we'll put it out there, kind of what we think is gonna work best, meaning with PJ and Holly and the board to find kind of a solution of, is it 9 to 12, is it 9 to 1? Maybe, like I said, some chapters we might not be doing 4 chapters of anything, and others we wouldn't, so I don't think we should limit to chapters, we should limit it to how much time we got from 9 to 12 to get through with it. Is that okay with the board?
And if you're coming, you might want to make it worthwhile instead of just doing an hour at a time or 3 hours at a time. Let's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're talking a special meeting on those dates?
correct.
The 4th
And
of
then I think I'm okay with that, because I think after our first meeting, we're gonna be able to figure out, we're gonna go through chapter by chapter and where we have some problems and, yeah. So you're talking like from 9 to noon or
Well, and I
9?
think once PJ lays out a schedule based on what happened at the planning commission and what topics are coming up, we'll know by meeting date, okay, here, we're gonna address mining, this is gonna be significantly more discussion than just this section. So we'll have a better idea once we kind of lay it out for timing structure, but we do need to get those dates advertised properly,
See,
so.
I don't have any concerns with that, but if I'm here, let's do an all-day thing and take breaks and do it. I mean, if I'm taking a day, that's my thoughts on the process.
Me too.
I'm okay with that.
I don't,
DeSanto?
up to you guys, but for me, Mondays work better than Wednesdays. Would the prior to our planning commission meeting work better for you guys, or what about you, Lloyd?
Anybody have a specific date? What are those dates then, Miss Holly, on Mondays?
Like Monday the 2nd and Monday
Well,
the,
Monday, the 2nd is planning commission.
oh, Okay,
And so is December 16th.
Okay.
It's an off month.
all right.
How about the in-between of the board meetings, though, Holly? What are those dates? The Monday?
The 3rd and the 17th.
Yes.
The Mondays in between planning commissions?
No, the Monday before. Is the planning commission the 3rd and the 17th, you said?
No, that's your board meetings.
No, second and 16th.
So 2nd and 16th would work?
Our planning commission
Planning
No, those
meetings.
are planning
So
commission
you would be
days.
talking about the 9th and the 23rd, which neither of those days work for me.
Those are the off Mondays, yes, 9 and
Yeah, the
23.
23rd's probably pushing it too close to Christmas.
Yep, I'll be
I won't
gone.
be here then.
Yeah, well, I'll be gone probably.
How about the 9th and the 18th?
9th does not work for me.
All right,
have to be
let's go
gone.
for the
So
4th and the 18th.
what we'll do, guys, instead of do it here, we'll just look at dates and then you'll put suggestions out there. And then we'll figure out from there what's gonna work for everybody's schedules. Usually, Holly can kind of get a hold of you and figure out those dates and then we'll put it out there. These are the dates we're suggesting, which can you make, which can you not make, that kind of thing.
Well, let's strive for 4 and 18. So at least let me know on those 2 dates.
Okay.
Okay, good suggestion. All right. Thank you, PJ.
Thank you.
Okay. We're gonna go ahead and move on with regular board. Do we need to discuss anything else on the comprehensive plan, PJ, that I missed?
I don't know if there's any public here that would like to comment, ma'am.
Okay, I apologize. Okay. This is the time for the public to, if they'd like to discuss anything on the comprehensive plan for Pennington County. I don't have any speaker requests. Did I miss anybody in the public that would like to speak on it? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and move on to the consent calendar agenda with Ms. Holly.
There is someone.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, sir. Your name, sir?
My name is David Kelly.
Okay,
I'm the Director of Transportation for the Oglala Sioux Tribe. And on your 20-year plan, I wasn't here for the entire thing, but I'd like to question, is there a plan to do some construction work on the county road that leads to the reservation from CNEC?
We can get you in touch with the highway department and we'll look at our 5-year plan and see if that's addressed in there. It wouldn't be in the comprehensive plan, sir.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
thank you, sir. And we can ask that when you come up on your byway too, sir.
Yeah.
And the
Make more sense.
and the highway will be here by then. That's the true statement. Thank you, sir, for coming up. Holly, 6 through 10, please.
All right, Commissioners, the Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today's consent agenda contains the following items: approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of October 15th, 2019, approval of the minutes of the special meeting from October 1st, 2019, approval of the 2020 Board of Commissioners meeting dates. Number 9 is to declare capital asset number 23910, which is a 1999 Chevrolet Blazer, as surplus for the purpose of trade-in, as submitted by the state's attorney's office. And finally, number 10 is to declare 2 vehicles, units 101 and 109, as presented as surplus for the purpose of trade-in towards replacement vehicles, and to authorize the sheriff's office to advertise for bids for 2 2019 or newer 4-door sedans as presented.
Thank you, Holly. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on 6 through 10 on our consent agenda? If not, is there any commissioner who wish to remove any items 6 through 10 from our consent agenda? If not,
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve the consent.
Second?
Commissioner Drews with approval and DeSanto, second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Next is our regular agenda items, 11 through 22. First is lien request release. Ms. Betsy Harris.
Commissioners, thank you for having us this morning. We are asking that the commission take a look at this lien and consider how difficult it is for this particular person to reach paying this lien. She has disabilities, she's working. She just told me that she can only make $700 in her employment as a housekeeper at a local motel without it affecting and reducing her Social Security disability. I can tell the commission, I represent parents in cases such as this, and the parents have very little control over what the expense would be for attorney's fees in a case that runs as long as this one does. And one of the reasons for that is there is a voluminous discovery. When I talk about discovery, I'm talking about a lot of paperwork that needs to be read. There are a lot of hearings in the matter. And even at the limited amount that's paid per hour to the facility, the attorneys that represent, it can accumulate. I did notice, and I thank the commission staff for noticing that there was a duplicate that actually reduced the amount of what the lien was. I have the temerity to ask the commission to please wipe out this lien, and if not, to understand that she will have a very difficult time making, this will last a long time for her to pay. She tells me that she wishes she could pay, but she is at a point right now where she may actually be evicted from her home. So we're hoping that there could be some relief.
Thank you. Any questions, board?
Madam Chair, what is the actual amount on this?
Miss Betsy, do you know the actual amount? Was it the 5,000?
5,729.16.
Looks to me like it's over 6.
5,729.16, is that the actual amount, Miss Betsy?
Actual amount is this one.
6160.38
Because there are two liens.
or
there's another-
89.
Say that again, Commissioner.
6,160.89.
Thank you.
So this is actually two liens? Is that what we're talking about?
It is.
Okay.
Can I ask, does she get housing or any other benefits, WIC or anything else, or
She does not
SNAP?
get WIC to get housing benefits. She has applied for energy assistance, but has not received approval for energy assistance yet.
Okay. So no other South Dakota housing or anything like that?
No.
Section 8?
I have bad credit, so I can't get housing. I got bad credit, really bad credit, so I can't pay it.
Okay. And,
You're doing it. I can't. You're doing it.
and you do have kids?
Separate.
Your Honor, her child was taken from her in this case.
Thank you, sorry. Okay.
I'm used to speaking to a court, but Your Honor is fine.
I've known you a long time, Miss Betsy, so you're fine.
I'm just as nervous as my client is.
You're a good lady, Miss
And I
Betsy.
did want to tell the commission that I am appointed to represent her currently on an appeal, but my fees are not included in this lien. That unfortunately will be something to discuss in the future.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
Betsy, thanks for, so what you're asking is to waive this one, but right now you're working on something else and possibly could have more coming. So, I mean, to me, it just seems kind of like we're contradicting what's going to happen coming again. I understand most of this is attorney fees, and I guess I'm more incensed to wait until it all comes forward, till I consider it, just because, you know, this is mainly for attorney fees.
It is.
And it's not like the incarceration like some of the other ones we see. And I guess I would rather wait until and make that decision when it's all said and done, and you've shown some progress in getting things going straight, a little more progress going forward.
I can advise you that, in fact, today is the day that I file my brief with the South Dakota Supreme Court. I would advise the commission that it's reasonable to expect that the decision in the case could be 6 months to 12 months out. Um, My, my client is concerned because this weighs on her. She worries about the fact that she has this debt to the county. It bothers her, and her disabilities make this kind of thing very anxious for her. But if we had approval from a commission to wait to make payments or to make small payments in the meantime, with an understanding that we could readdress this, I think that that would be a reasonable expectation.
Looks like Cindy's got something to say, because we've taken smaller payments before. Is it too late to do that? I would be more in support of taking some type of payment till this is all taken care of, and then review it after the decision's made, just to help the young lady ease her mind a
Do you
little
want
bit.
us to discuss with the auditor what that payment would need to be, or would you want to set something?
Well,
Because she's very close to the bone.
Yeah, and I think we could go with the very,
So I
to
just-
hold off, I mean, we. $15 a month or something along those lines could be,
Pay $15 a month?
I could pay every 2 weeks. I could try.
let's have Cindy help us out here.
Good morning, Commissioners. Cindy Moeller, Pennington County Auditor. We will accept $1 a month. Some people go for months and months and months and never make a payment on a lien. As long as they're making an attempt to pay something, we won't turn it over to credit collections. So if you can make $1 a month or $5 a month, we would accept that. That's
So I
not
have a
problem
question.
for
Have
us.
you made any payments on any of this?
I have been, but then I don't, like I said, I'm paying my heat bill, and my heat bill is like $190 a month, because I don't have, like I said, I don't got no assistant, so I have to pay my heat bill. And my husband's in jail for a lot of charges, and he might be going to prison for a very long time, so I'm struggling with everything. I have a lot of bills. I have like 6 bills I have to pay every month. And I still have 2 more bills I have to pay, and I don't know how I'm gonna pay them, but I have to figure that out.
So let me ask you something. So
I'm only getting 711 from Social Security, because they cut me down. I don't get Medicaid or Medicare no more.
Since she,
I had surgery.
since she presented this to the commission, she's actually had a reduction in her social security.
well, Miss Betsy, the expenses say 1,076, and the amount she makes a month is 2,053.
Well,
Am I missing something?
these were figures she provided to me, and then in discussing this morning, it seems to me that there are some more expenses that she didn't consider.
But here's where I'm going. So even if there's more expenses, in the last 6 months, have you paid us anything on your bill?
Yes. She made a payment in June, July, or sorry, May, June, and August. She
Okay.
did make it.
And what were those payments, Miss Kara?
$6, $11, and $10.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
I'd like to follow the recommendation that Lloyd made, where we do $15 a month and see something consistent. $6, $10, $11, but over a lengthy period or a long period of time. My biggest issue with this is that substantial amount of her income is taxpayer generated in the first place. And then we're gonna turn around and also basically burden the taxpayers with another $6,160.89. And then we also have a husband in jail that's using taxpayer funding as well. And I don't know if that's really the job of the taxpayers to be continually supporting this kind of stuff. So I would like to see some consistent payments made to address this, even if we don't ever get it paid off. if some consistent payments are made, it would show good faith.
So Cindy, we can make it so it doesn't go to credit collections. Remember Buskard would do that? He wouldn't make sure it didn't go to credit collections, but you had to start making some type of payment every month. That way you wouldn't ruin any more of your credit. They wouldn't come after you with extra fees, that kind of thing. But we'd still want you to make some payments to us.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yeah, I can try, yeah.
Okay. Miss Cindy, how do we say that or how do we do that so that it doesn't go to credit collections and that we can,
Madam Chair, if you just make a motion that we not send her account to credit collections at any point, then we can stay with that.
okay. Commissioner LaCroy?
That would be my motion on the contingency that she continues with $15 a month payments.
So Betsy, tell us on the $15 a month, do you think that's doable and that's not sending it to credit collections so we don't ruin our credit anymore?
She does tell me that she could make a payment this coming Friday and possibly in 2 weeks after that for a total of $15 per month, if that is compliant with the motion.
Yeah, I think Mark has a good point that he wants to see some consistency depending on, and then when after this appeal comes through, how that comes out, then you have a history of some consistency to be able to be able to.
What I'm understanding from the commissioner is that when the appeal is completed and we know my reasonable fees, that we could reapproach the commission. I thank you for hearing us this morning.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ladies.
We have to take a
So
vote on
a
it?
motion, please?
Motion is to, as long as she makes a $15 a month payment, consistently, it won't go to credit collection.
That we won't.
Yeah.
What Cindy
I'll second
said.
that.
Motion by LaCroy, second by Ross Connect. Kara, did you get that motion?
Yeah,
Cindy?
and there are some that are at credit collections right now, but we can bring back from credit collections if you guys want. We can just ask them to bring them back.
That would
you
be
like me
fine.
to do that?
Is that okay with the,
Think-
okay, motion?
We'll deal with that.
All right. Thank you, Miss Kara.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Miss Betsy. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next, we have Veterans Day recognition from Barry Tice. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Barry Tice, the Director of Pennington County Health and Human Services in the Veterans Service Office. Pennington County has over 12,000 veterans living here, and on November 11th, 2019, it's dedicated and honored as Veterans Day every year. We'll celebrate and honor America's veterans for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve the United States for the common good. Standing to my right today, I want to recognize our two Pennington County Veterans Service officers, Thomas Villette and Alan Taylor.
Morning.
Morning.
Thank you, folks.
They're both United States Air Force veterans, and their supervisor, Alexander Purcell, who was a United States Army veteran, our former Pennington County Veterans Service officer, and now the Assistant Director of Pennington County Health and Human Services. The Pennington County Veterans Service Office assists veterans, their dependents, and survivors in applying for veterans benefits from the Department of Veterans Affairs in the state of South Dakota. We greatly appreciate the work they do to ensure veterans receive the support and services they have earned through their service to this nation. So we wanted to make a special point, and I appreciate the commissioners for bringing this forward as we prepare to honor veterans across the United States and nation.
Thank you, Barry. On behalf of the Pennington County Commissioners, we'd like to thank the veterans in our community, county, and throughout the United States of America for their services to our county. Pennington County has over 12,000 veterans that live here, and on November 11th, 2019, Veterans Day, we will celebrate and honor Americans veterans for their patriotism, love of the country, and willingness to serve United States for the common good. We are proud here in Pennington County of the 130 veterans we have, 15.8% of Pennington County employees that are veterans. Today, we'd like to introduce and honor our two Pennington County veteran officers, Tom and Alan. I should read your last names, Thomas Fillet and Alan Taylor, both United States Air Force veterans, and Alexander Purcell, United States Army veteran and former Pennington County Veteran Service Officer and currently Assistant Director of Pennington Health and Human Services. That would be Mr. Alex. I won't say anything. I tease him bad. The Pennington County Veteran Service Officer, assistant veterans, are in their dependents and survivors in applying for veterans benefits for the Departments of Veterans Affairs in the state of South Dakota. We greatly appreciate the work they do to ensure veterans receive the support and services they have earned throughout their service to our nation. We can't say enough for our veterans. I have a few veterans that work at a hotel with us, and I'll tell you, you don't find harder workers and more dedicated people to what they do, whether they're men or women. So we appreciate your service and everything you three have done for us, but just throughout our nation. I think it's pretty amazing. We forget sometimes people fighting for our country, how much they mean to us, and in Pennington County. You're well needed and you're welcome here. We love what you do. We love what you've done for us, for our country. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Commissioners. Thank you.
Barry. Have him come up.
You want them up?
Want him up by the.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your service. Thank you very much. Thanks for your service. Gary? You want to do it back over here?
No, we can just do it right here since everybody's standing right there. Just squeeze together. Just got a picture, sir.
You gotta be facing forward.
Thank you.
Okay.
Everybody did.
Next, we have Jerome.
You been to that, Mark?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just been a day there.
Okay, Miss Holly.
It's been a week there. I could spend a week in every
We're
single
on,
museum in that whole area.
do I read it first?
Yeah.
We
Okay.
went out and spent.
Okay, next we'll have the executive proclamation with Jerome and his
I hardly saw anything.
fire service board.
Right.
Thank
Good
you,
morning,
Jerome.
Commissioners. Jerome Harvey, Pennington County Fire Administrator.
Amen.
And I have Jim Kitterman, Chief with the Wall Volunteer Fire Department.
Morning.
Morning.
Butch Kitterman, 63-year veteran of the fire service, and several members of his family are here in attendance.
Nice.
This is a very distinct honor, I feel, myself, and for the entire county to take a moment to recognize Butch's for 63 years of continuous service in the fire service. That's huge.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
So, you want me to read this?
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve that proclamation.
Approve what?
Approve the proclamation.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Sir?
All right, we'll try the whereas and what fors. An executive proclamation for Boyd Butch Kitterman with the Wall Volunteer Fire Department. Whereas the Pennington County Board of Commissioners wish to recognize volunteer firefighter Boyd Butch Kitterman for 63 honorable and dedicated years to the Wall Volunteer Fire Department and the citizens of Pennington County. And whereas Butch and his entire family are valued community members in the Wall area and have made significant contributions to their community, Butch was blessed to spend over 62 wonderful years with his beautiful bride, Ann. Together they had 4 children, John, Jim, Jeff, and Jean. Butch and Ann owned a local freight company named the Wall Drayline. They purchased the Welsh Motel in 1978, and in 1980 purchased a flower shop and ran the flower shop out of the motel office for several years. Mattel did burn down and they rebuilt. 4 years later, they added the cabins, which they continue to own and operate. And whereas Butch's first major fire was the Deadwood Fire in 1959, he responded to that fire not as a volunteer fireman, but because he was an employee of the State Department of Transportation. Butch and his son Jim and John both have also been members of the Wall Volunteer Fire Department. Survived the firestorm in Nameless Cave Road during the Westbury Trails Fire in 1988. Butch's most memorable and heart-wrenching experience as a volunteer was during the summer of 2001 when he was driving the Wall ambulance. As he pulled up onto an accident scene, he realized that one of his 2 people injured was his grandson, Aaron Kitterman. And whereas Kitterman has served the Wall Volunteer Fire Department as treasurer, captain of Rescue 1, chief, and is above all, including myself here, a mentor of firefighters in Wall and throughout the county. And whereas it's most appropriate for the people of Pennington County to join together as we celebrate Butch Kitterman and 63 years of volunteer dedication in Pennington County, South Dakota. Now, therefore, we, the Pennington County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim November 5th, 2019 as Boyd Butch Kitterman Day. We do commend this observation of all of the citizens and encourage you to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of Butch and his family to this great county. And this is signed by our chairman.
Thank you. On behalf of our commission today, Butch, we appreciate everything you've done for our county, our city, and our state. We couldn't have done it without you here in Pennington County. Wall and your family look like you've been around for a little bit. You've been married 62 years. That's a long time.
Yeah.
We appreciate your service. We appreciate you, sir. And it is your day on November 5th, 2019, sir, for everything you have given to us as a community throughout South Dakota. So we appreciate you a whole lot, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kitterman.
Do you have a few words, sir?
I don't think so.
You have 62 years of feeling the love and you have nothing back.
Jim, would you like to say anything?
Jim, would you like to?
Enough in that 62 years.
Sir?
I guess on behalf of the Wall Fire Department, I'd like to thank my father, the rest of my family, Pennington County Fire Commissioners, everybody for their support over the years that we've been here. I mean, we couldn't do it without you guys. My dad, my family, it's been, the fire service is one big family. So, thank you.
I think Butch deserves a standing ovation.
Yep.
Thank you, Butch.
I'll give you a hug. There you go. Thank you for your service, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
How long you been? I was on the Westbury
35
Trails
years.
Fire Society, 1988. That was a bad one. Worked for 7 days.
Well done, sir. Great respect for you. Is the grandson here?
Nope, he's in Wichita, Kansas.
But he's okay. Oh, yeah. All right, good.
Am I supposed to harass him? Thank you, Gail. Thanks, Jerome.
You bet.
Holly, did you want a picture?
We probably should.
Picture? Picture. Butch, we're gonna get a picture of you.
Oh, yeah?
We are. We're gonna bug you again.
I charge for that.
You should. You can get Marcus after.
Where's Ron? Okay, Ron did that.
I know.
Thanks, Butch.
You take care, Butch. You take care, sir. Thank you for your service. We appreciate you a lot.
Love you guys.
We can't do it without you either.
God bless you.
Jim, you got?
It's his nephew's my insurance agent.
Oh, yeah.
State Farm.
Oh.
Do you live in Trail City? Do you live in Trail City or what? Okay.
Okay, where did I do my glasses?
Okay, oh, sure, okay.
I put my glasses somewhere.
On your head? No.
Sometimes. Thank you. Thank you for doing that for one of our firemen. We appreciate that a whole lot. Gail, Jerome, and Jim, for your dad. Next, we're on to number 14th, WRN Weather Ready Nation Ambassador Recognition, Mr. Dave Hintz, meteorologist in charge, National Weather Service.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dave Hintz. I'm the meteorologist in charge with the National Weather Service office here in Rapid City. Every year, the Weather Service offices around the country are asked to nominate an individual or an entity for a Weather Ready Nation Ambassador of Excellence. This individual or entity or group of individuals helps the Weather Service promote safety, outreach, getting our weather messages across, helping to protect the public, basically our mission of protecting life and property. This year was pretty easy. This year we put up and nominated the Pennington County Emergency Management Office, and it was accepted. And if you'll permit me, I would like to read this certificate here. The Rapid City Pennington County Emergency Management Office promotes preparedness to residents in many ways. They produce their own professional-looking brochures on winter storms, thunderstorms, and flooding. They promoted their emergency notification system, which is an additional method to receive hazard information on cup sleeves provided to local coffee shops. The deputy director appeared on a local TV talk show on preparedness and a live radio talk show prior to the annual tornado drill. They sponsor an annual disaster awareness and safety day with booths from 25 federal, state, and local public safety agencies. Their entire staff, including the administrative assistant and families, participate in this event to ensure it is a success. So it is with great pleasure that we award this certificate to the entire office of the Pennington County Emergency Management Office. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up, emergency management, please. Pepper, Mark, Dustin, Alexa. We'll let you guys say a few words and then we'll come down. Dustin?
Dustin Willett, Director of the Rapid City Pennington County Emergency Management Office. I'm not going to say much because the recognition and the award truly go to an incredible staff. So Alexa, Pepper, and Mark do an amazing job, and it's my distinct honor and privilege to share the office with them and empower them and support them in their efforts. So I will step back and let those that truly deserve this honor have.
Thank you. You have, Dustin, you do have a great team. Mark, Alexa, or Pepper, would you like to say a few words today?
I know when I came, I've been here 10 years now, and our Disaster Awareness Day, we had our 11th year. So I started it right after, and we just have had a great response from our local response agencies as being part of that. And I think it's just grown every year, and just keeping what we do and what is important for people to do with preparedness out there for the community to hear over and over, because it takes a few times to hear that before you actually take action, or to have a close call before you take action. So hopefully you hear it a few times and do something about it. So thank you for supporting us in the efforts that we have in the community. And
thank you. And we appreciate you. We've taken a class with Dustin, and you ever take a class with Dustin? Just kidding, Dustin. Very thorough. We learned kind of the basic on what emergency management does. Sometimes they think that all the responses through the city, whether it be police, firemen, are all up to emergency management, but it's not. And we learned that thoroughly, what his job was and what your team's job was. And I thoroughly enjoyed that class. And also, it reminds us how much you guys do, and we appreciate you a lot. So
I'd just like to thank you all for keeping us safe and keeping us warned so that we know what to do and where to go when the time comes. Thank you.
Do it without partners like the Weather Service. So Dave and his shop have been incredible partners, stakeholders, Again, it's a team effort, and the National Weather Service and our local office have been incredible partners and stakeholders with us. So we're very, very grateful for Dave and his shop.
Thank you. One more time,
Well,
guys.
good job, team.
Ollie, you want to take one more picture? I'll keep these up my head.
Let me fix my hair.
Dave,
Dave.
Slide in between these guys. There we go.
Are we too wide, Holly?
I think we must be. Nope, you're good. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks for everything. Thank you very much.
Backwards, forward.
Dedication and hard work.
Thanks for your hard work. Thank you, Alexa.
Hi, how's it going?
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Always hugs.
I don't think we've done that 3 times in a year.
Okay, I didn't lose my glasses. Board. Next, we're on number 15, Crazy Horse Scenic Byway application, Miss Tanya Huber.
Good morning,
Good morning, and your name, ma'am?
Tanya Huber.
And your name, sir?
Dave Kelly, Director of Transportation, Oglala Sioux Tribe.
Thank you, folks. Tanya, would you like to go first, Miss Tanya?
I would let Dave talk if he would.
Okay. And Dave, we do have our highway superintendent here today. After you're done with this, maybe you can ask him the question that you asked earlier as well.
Yeah, I'm willing to wait until he comes on the floor for his, number 20? 22, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah, I can hang around for that.
okay, thank you, sir.
What we're here for is, we're looking for support. We as the tribe are taking an initiative to create a scenic byway through the reservation. Recently, we've acquired some property just off the interstate, the Cactus Flats property. This is something that we've always looked for, in the past, but never really have had time to sit down and do it. And under Safety Lieu, the Highway Bill Safety Lieu, it was an eligible act, which we could have followed. Because it was competitive in nature, it was really tough to get the designation. So right now, we're wanting to use the state's designation process. And as you can see there, we've got 2 areas from starting in Kadoka, coming off of the second area, coming on to Cactus Flats. One going through Wambly, the other through Cedar Pass, and down into the city of Kyle. Then there's a little break there, a branch that comes off, which we call Yellow Bear Canyon, which is going to be a spur. We're back over into the Sharps Corner area on BIA 2, all the way down to Wounded Knee, in through Pine Ridge. We want to stop by the Red Cloud Heritage Center along the way, up through Oglala. And the other route will come from Sharps going north to the Rocky Ford Ranger Station, cut across BIA 2 and connect. Then if you can see it, we connect back into Highway 40. So what we're looking for is we've got a schedule of roughly 10 meetings. We were in Bennett County yesterday. This afternoon we'll be in the city of Hermosa. What's required under the state is that we go through every township, every community, every municipality to get, a thumbs up approval, concurrence per se, or support. So what we're here for is we're asking for support letters.
Can I ask you one question, sir, Mr. Kelly? Do you have the commissioners on the reservation's consent to turn this into a scenic byway?
Yes, they were the individuals that tasked my office with this shore.
Okay.
They actually approved of this route and the name of it.
Yep.
Very good.
And that would be the Economic and Business Development Committee for the tribe.
Okay, and they don't have a letter or anything of with that consent, or they just sent Mr. Kelly?
They would have meeting minutes.
Yeah, there would be meeting minutes available. We don't have them with us.
Okay.
We didn't think you needed them, but we could get you a copy if needed.
Yep.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner?
Dave, tell us what this designation actually does for you.
For my, I've been the Director of Transportation for going on 17 years now. And I drive them routes almost daily in one perspective or another. And I see a lot of economic opportunity there for the tribe. And for somebody just to step up and start the process to get this thing accomplished, because we have numerous artists on the reservation. We've got a small bed and breakfast, and none of it's really being developed. So, we're not asking for a lot. My office, basically touches everybody's life one way or the other. When you're talking roads, you're talking transportation. What we're wanting is to do a little bit of development along them lines. So if we can get the designation further on down the line, the designation, of course, we no longer have the Tiger grants available to us, but we now have billed. For some particular reason, last year, the tribes were not eligible to apply. But this year, my understanding is we're back. And we've been successful in the past. And I think part of the deal, whenever you're applying for them grants of that, that nature, they're a large caliber. We're competing against everybody. I think a designation would really help us secure some additional funding to fix our roads also.
So the route is designated by signs, and I presume that it's designated on the maps in the future, showing that designation and so forth to try to drive traffic to those areas that are interested in traveling scenic byways and so forth. Are there other things that come along with that too then?
The South Dakota Department of Tourism would be enabled to, if it's approved by the committee, the Scenic Byway Committee in the state, they would be able to display that map, and then they would be able to work with the tribe in promoting that.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix?
Dave, I really appreciate you guys moving forward with this because I think part of it reflects more of what the community is by renaming it what it is, but also for the, like they said, with the the economic development, it's more fitting for that area. And so just the name change itself and showing the respect for the community, I think is much more valuable than the economic development myself.
Yeah, thank you.
So, one thing, Miss Tanya, I thought the scenic byways, and maybe Mr. Kelly knows this, isn't it stricter regulations, rules and regulations on those? I thought for building commercial entities and different things, that wasn't
Well,
what byways were for.
there's a list of items that the committee, the Scenic Byway Committee for the state looks at. One of it is cultural. They also look at, the condition of the roads, and all of these are paved roads. They look at tourism, game fish and parks, there's fishing and hunting on the reservation. They look at a lot of different elements, and so that's, as part of our application, we'll be putting together how the Scenic Byway would bring all of those elements into play.
I guess I would like to see that state rules and regs. I mean, not that I think it's a great idea. I just want to make sure that you guys know what you're getting into as well, and maybe you do. I just remember when we did this at the city, it actually restricted a lot of things that we thought we could do so people couldn't build on those scenic byways and stuff. So maybe I'm misunderstanding the rules because what you're saying, Mr. Kelly, is awesome. And that's what I think you should do. I'm just making sure maybe I'm missing the boat on the scenic byway, that I thought it restricted a lot of that stuff on those certain highways.
I don't believe so. We're a federal highway tribe. We've cut out the middleman, the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So there's a lot of statutes in place, but there are a lot of loopholes that we look for also. And there's, federal highways has always been good to us, looking forward and trying to find innovative ways to get a lot of projects done. And I think with this designation, I think we can expand our capabilities even further.
Okay.
So I don't really foresee anything holding us back.
Okay, just so I'm clear, I'm not trying
Yes,
to, try,
yes,
I
I
just
understand.
want to make
I
sure we're
understand.
all in the understanding that hopefully it doesn't restrict and it actually enhances what you're doing
Yes.
today, sir. Okay,
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Roskinick.
I think it's a really good program. Might need a little more documentation so we, the next presentation you do, we understand what the goal is to promote economic development and the time frame, what would physically have to be done to make this happen. Just a little more information so it's easier. Overall, I think it's a great idea. Just could use some additional information so that we don't have to ask these questions in the next presentation you do. It'll be more self-explained. I did one in Hill City, and our chair said, "No, I'm not going to do it. I want more information." So I kept going back and getting more information. And finally, we had a comfort level when we finally approved it, and I would suggest that maybe a little more information would make it easier for people to make decisions.
We're only here to ask for a letter of support in our endeavors. And, this is actually, this is the first time, I don't know if the tribes ever came before you guys in the past. And I think this is a good step to build in some sort of relationship. We've built relationships in the past with Custer. They had $3 million bridge project and they couldn't complete it, so they came to us. Somewhere down the line, we knew we were going to need their help, being, the designation that we have today. So we contributed $1 million to their project because that provided service to both their people and our people. So that's the kind of relationships that we're looking for.
Commissioner DeSanto. Sorry, I almost.
Well, I just wanted to point out that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if it does get a scenic highway designation, it'll also open you guys up to some federal funds to help to take care of those roads too, won't it?
Potentially.
Yeah, potentially, but it would more than likely be in the form of a grant, and any more grants are really, really slim this time around. I hate to say it, but anything that comes out, we're looking to go after.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
I agree with Dave with building the relationships, and I think he's just asking for a letter of support.
Yes.
Kind of from what I've heard from the commission, they support it, they want more information, but I think the step is just to support, because you're moving forward with some of the questions that were asked, you're going to end up having to answer them to the committee.
Yes.
Yeah.
So personally, I spoke, so I can't make a motion, but.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Joe, can you come up on, is there any impact on our roads to do with the scenic byway that's designated here?
Good morning, Commission. Joe Miller, Pennington County Highway Superintendent. I talked to somebody from KLJ.
Probably Steve Grable, yeah.
I talked to Steve Grable about this. He was at our office for another matter up on South Rochford Road, and there is no impact specifically on our roads. Generally, it might bring more traffic to the area on our roads. So in a big picture sense, possibly, but the scenic byway, there's no direct impact.
Well, Joe, do we have scenic byway in Pennington County?
I can't answer that question. I don't know.
Mark, do you know?
Is there a scenic byway in Pennington County at all?
I can answer that.
I don't believe so.
The Badlands National Park's scenic byway
Oh,
is
okay,
there.
yes,
And
there you
then
go.
as well as the loop that goes around Custer State Park, we connect to both of them.
So.
And we actually overlap part of it. The highways that would be in Pennington County are all state highways. So you wouldn't have any signing requirements or maintenance or anything like that.
It's nice to have that example of what you just said, because Custer State Park and the Badlands, they do economic development in different areas in those, and they have some really good businesses and stuff in that. So that was nice for you, because we really, that's why we probably don't know, is because we don't have them, sir. Not that we're against what you're doing. We just kind of don't know what that is in a sense. So, those are some good examples for us to
Madam Chair,
understand what's gonna happen in this area and what they're trying to do.
I would make a motion to sign a letter of support for the Oglala Sioux Tribe's application to the SDDOT for a proposed Crazy Horse Scenic Byway.
Second.
By DeSanto, second by Ross Connect. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Tanya. That made it a little bit more understanding of where we're going. Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Dave.
Just want to take a minute. My hand's injured, but it's good to meet you.
Hey, good to meet you, Dave.
Trying to make my way up here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Thank you, sir. Next, we're on 16A, tax deed property located at 321 South Street.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Len Weimer, and I'm a property owner and taxpayer in Pennington County, and I have a property at 1104 4th Street that is a rental property. Recently, when I was paying income taxes and going on the website, I became aware that the county owns a little piece of ground right next to my property at 1104 4th Street, and that it was priced properly, and I'm interested in purchasing it. So I came to the county to find out how I'd go about that, and it's brought us here today. I think that I provided information as to where the property is located, what the values of it are, and what the rules and regulations are for you to either approve the sale of it. And so I guess I'm here to answer any questions that I have left unresolved.
Do you have any questions? Word? This is the property, sir? This is the property. I apologize if you'd like to, is that the property that you're talking about?
Well, that's interesting. I did not provide that photo. That photo is of the property before that building was demolished. There's a long history of this property having had a squatter on it who built garages that were not approved and was living in a trailer house with a wood stove in it, and that trailer house got burned down. And I mean, I've been working on this property trying to get that for years and years. It has now been totally leveled off. There's no structures on it, and I was unaware until just a little while ago that the county owned it, and so I thought it was still in the process of trying to collect the money from the guy that owned it before for the cleanup. Evidently, that isn't going to happen. So,
That's weird. That's down the street from me. I didn't know that. I should probably abstain.
I have a picture if you
Okay,
want.
I won't.
This is what the property looks like now.
Yes, it's-
and I think I wrote on it.
The whole property is actually vacated. That property is vacated, and the one that's on 4th Street and Silverleaf on that corner is vacated as well. They actually had the city come in, and there's other tax deeds on that than that. There's liens on that property.
I don't know
Besides-
that.
Yes, sir, you might want to check, because there's other liens and stuff on that property besides just paying that tax deed. Do you know that?
I don't know that. I haven't done a title search on it. I just thought if I could get a purchase agreement to purchase it, we'd do a title search and see if it's possible. Maybe it's not possible. I don't know.
Okay, you might want to do a search on that before you ask, this is my opinion.
Okay.
Before you ask us or tell us you want to buy it, you might want to see what that amount is, because I think it's a lot. If I can think about it, so.
Okay, well.
Sorry, Holly, am I saying something wrong?
No, you're good.
Yeah, I think we're missing something here. There's, Miss Janet, do you have something? I could use some help. I don't know how to explain all that. stuff to Mr.
Good
Leonard.
morning, Janet Saylor, Treasurer. If there is specials on there from the city of Rapid City, city specials do not go away. So he would have to work with the city in reference to that. And if there's any federal liens or anything, so he really does need to do a title search on it first.
That's my opinion, sir, because you might want to see what that amount is before you decide to take a tax deed on it.
Okay,
You would be responsible for all those liens in those, on that property, sir.
As far as the city specials or federal liens.
Yes.
Correct, Jay? And state liens.
well, is there a way to get agreement that I can purchase it from the county for $2,500 subject to clear title?
Jay Alderman with the State's Attorney's Office, just to give you a little quick background. The auditor, I think annually, Cindy's not here, holds the surplus auction, which is auctioning off tax deed properties in the ownership of the county. And the way it gets there is once the treasurer issues a tax deed to the county, all the tax liens are gone of the county, but all of the city specials, state liens, maybe a tax, a sales tax lien, for instance, and then obviously any IRS liens or something remain on the property. And then when the auditor has the actual surplus tax deed sell at the auction, whoever ends up with the property is subject to all of those liens. And the county issues a quitclaim deed that basically says, you get whatever we have, and what we have is subject to all those liens. And the way they do it is through the auction. So my understanding is the real question here is when, there's not many properties right now, Holly, as I understand it, that the auditor has, so.
Correct. We don't have enough properties we're holding on tax deed to make the cost of a public auction worthwhile. So basically, the board just needs to decide today if you want to hold that property until we have a sale, or if you want to go ahead and offer it right now,
For auction,
Madam Chair,
or sealed bid.
yes.
and if we offer this right now, once we have done the quitclaim deed, we're no longer liable for any of those costs. That's correct, right? So it'd all fall on him.
Yeah.
I don't have
So
a problem with selling it right now.
You could do a one property auction, and you don't have to have a separate appraisal done on the property. When you get into the sealed bids and listing with a realtor, then you have to start appraising the property and so forth, which is an additional expense, excuse me, and time delay. But if you say, we'll advertise this property for a one property auction, then the whole world has a right, obviously, to come in addition to you to bid at the auction. But
And that's the way we have to do it. We can't sell it individually to him without offering it to the public. Okay.
the only way that can happen, I think I'm familiar with maybe one time, a long time ago, is if you appraise the property and the value comes in at $500 or less, you can have a private sale. But my understanding is this property is worth more than $500 for sure. And with an auction, you don't have to have an official appraisal done.
That would be my suggestion.
Just one thing, I think we should continue it. I think he needs to learn how much is on that property. I think it's hundreds of thousands. I don't think it's like 5,000, sir, because they took down a house, they cleaned this property up and it has, I would say continue it and let him look into how much he has to pay and then come back and agree to this.
And I'm not arguing with you, whatever you want to do, but
Yes,
the
sir.
house was not on that property. There's two lots there.
Yes.
If you look at the paperwork I gave you, it's the small little lot that's only 50 by 50 that I'm talking about.
Yes, sir. They
It
took
never
a,
had a home on it, and it can't have a home on it because it's only 50 by 50. So
sir, I live on that block. There was a house there. It was a meth house.
that's
And then-
true.
And they
yeah.
took that down.
And I'm
And
the
that
one
has
that got
liens.
it down, yeah.
Yeah. And then they had him living in the garage there.
No, that was a different owner. There's two lots. May I approach?
Yes, sir.
We're talking apples and oranges.
Okay. I
Okay.
apologize.
Exactly what he's talking.
This is the lot, and you have the picture of it. This is the plat of the property.
This is one lot, this is
Okay.
Right. This is the one that he's talking about trying to buy.
right.
This one right here is for sale on the open market right now.
So this is where the house was, sir. This is where his garage, this is,
No, this is my garage, my home that I live in.
To park for him.
Here's,
Okay.
here's,
I understand that.
here's the, this is the lot that the house was on that has the liens on it.
okay.
This is the property in question.
So I'm missing, okay, because this lot next, this house here, and then this lot here is all
My
empty.
garage on the adjacent property at 1104.
And you wanna buy this area, or you wanna buy this one?
This, it's right here, it's 50 feet wide and 50 feet deep.
So, let's, I need to look at it with you out there, so, are you okay with continuing it?
Okay.
And then I'll have my husband talk to you about, maybe you're missing something on there? Okay. So can we ask for a continuance to the next,
Move to continue to the next meeting.
okay. Moved by LaCroy. Is there a second?
Are we gonna pick a date to continue it to?
Next commission meeting, so I can investigate it a little bit, and then call Mr. Weimer. Is there a second?
I'll second.
By DeSanto. And what we'll do, sir, is I'll
Thank you.
call you, and then you can show me where that at.
Okay, yeah.
And then
I'd
make
be happy
sure
to. Yeah.
we get that address and research it for you. Okay, it's been a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next, we will have an executive session, SDCL 1-25-2-1, personal matters. If we have a motion, please.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Drews, second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Okay.
Okay,
Make a motion to come out of executive session.
Motion by Drews,
Second.
second by Roskinek. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We'll wait for just a few minutes for Commissioner DeSanto. Miss Cindy, you can come up if you'd like. We'll wait for Commissioner DeSanto for a minute. I need more room. Okay, he's back. Number 17, items from the auditor. Thank you, Miss Cindy, for waiting.
Morning again, Commissioners. Cindy Moeller, Pennington County Auditor. 17A is, I'm asking you to repeal the resolution that I had you approve on October 1st because Stephen Rosholt from Kudak Rock has now changed his mind on what our disclosures for our bond requirements are, and we cannot switch our accounting practices.
Okay.
So so it's not changing the bi-weekly or anything, pay or anything, this is just the
No, this is just
cash basis
for our-
stuff?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay,
So this keeps it consistent? I mean, by doing it this way, that's,
We'll remain doing what we've always done.
any questions, board? How about a motion?
I'd make a motion to repeal the resolution regarding special purpose reporting method of accounting that was approved October 1, 2019.
Motion by
Second.
Drews. Second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Miss Cindy. Item B is a public hearing for the general fund search and rescue budget in the amount of $121,217 from assigned equipment reserve. Do we have a motion?
So
This is-
moved.
Motion by Drews,
Second.
second by Roskinek. This is on the Sherpa vehicle. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Transfer of alcoholic beverage licenses.
This is a transfer, it looks like it's an actual transfer of ownership. It goes from High Country Guest Ranch under the owner of Blended Arrow LLC to the new owner of Ventures in the Hills LLC.
Questions or a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by
Second.
Roskinek, second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. This is a renewal of retail liquor license with Sunday sales. Is there a motion or a discussion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Roskinek,
Second.
second by Drews. Any discussion? Miss Cindy, anything?
No,
Okay,
ma'am.
all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Renewal of retail license wine and cider licenses as presented, release licenses upon payment of appropriate property taxes. Motion or discussion?
Madam Chair, I
Commissioner
didn't
LaCroy.
notice, I was looking through these, this one here, my employer's listed as one. So you can vote on them all except for corner pantry number 21. I'll have to abstain from that one.
So one abstention on number 21, and then a motion to approve except for 21
So moved.
with one abstention. DeSanto, approval. Drews, second. So the motion would be Ms. Kara, all approval with one abstention from Commissioner LaCroy on 21.
Okay.
Item F, renewal packaged liquor off-sale license, Johnson Siding General Store.
On this one, we had received a letter from the sheriff's office in regards to this license. And I was actually hoping Sheriff Tom would be here to speak to this because we do show that the license, is in effect, until June 30th of 2020. So not really sure why there was an issue with that. And then, planning and zoning also has an issue with this as far as septic issues on this property, so I'd let PJ speak to that.
Do we need a continuance?
Brian, do you have anything either to share? Let's have both speak on the issue. Thank you.
Yeah, please.
Brian, sir?
Brian Mueller, Pennington County Sheriff's Office. I didn't get a chance to visit with the sheriff about the memo that he wrote, but I do think that the auditor's office probably has better access to the licensing information. So if there's a conflict between the correct licensing information, I'm thinking Cindy probably has the right information on that.
PJ?
PJ Conva, Director, Planning Department. We received a complaint about the septic system back in May being hydraulically overloaded, and we just received further confirmation this morning from Hills Septic about some issues with that tank. In conversations with the auditor, we would be comfortable with recommending approval contingent on the landowner fixing the problem, and we need to do it by November 29th. That'd be the Friday, December 1st.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner,
PJ, that facility in question here, is that septic tank? That's a condominium there. So the store, the bar, those are 2 or 3 different entities. So is that septic system specific to the liquor license and the store?
It's the store and the bar, not the, yeah, those two are connected into it.
But
So not the condominium.
But different ownership.
I don't know about the ownership, I'm sorry.
this also has payment of appropriate property taxes, guys, on this property. Did you read that as well? We can either continue or deny.
I think we need to continue, but I don't believe that, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we can hold those two things together as far as accountability is concerned. We can certainly, I think, deny on the basis of the taxes that are still due, but I don't think we could tell them we got to enforce that some other way, if I'm not mistaken. Jay?
Cindy, do you have some information first, and then we can have Jay if we need Jay?
This is the only information that I have in regards to this. If you would like to continue it so we can
Get more
all
information?
get together and get
Okay.
more information.
That would be my motion to continue.
To the next meeting?
Second.
Yes.
To the
Okay.
next meeting.
What's the next meeting, Holly? November
19th.
19th, continuance? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Ms. Cindy.
Just
Items from fire.
verification. Deb, did we actually vote on
We didn't.
Sunday renewals where I was abstaining? I know you said
We
it.
did,
Oh, it was a
we
week
did.
after that, I think.
And then
Yeah,
it was,
yeah, she just had you down as abstaining for all of them. in E.
All of them?
Mhm.
But then we didn't vote again on, oh, did we? We didn't remove that one.
Actually, what I said was, DeSanto made the motion, Drew seconded. All in favor, say aye with one abstention on number 21, Lloyd LaCroix.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I said.
That works.
I actually remembered that. That's pretty good. Okay. You got that, Ms. Kara?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I should have reiterated a little bit better then. Number 18, please.
Jerome Harvey, Pennington County Fire Administrator, and I have with me today Jim Kitterman, the Fire Chief from the Wall Volunteer Fire Department, and Chief Gail Schmidt from the Rockerville Volunteer Fire Department. We talked about this a couple months ago as far as receiving of the Assistance to Firefighter grants. And we wanted to update you about what was going on with the grants and some questions about the communications or radio grant. And we were waiting until we had heard positive about the grant to Wall for the air compressor. So basically it just brings you up to date. And I do have some information for Commissioner DeSanto to correct some things that I said. We talked about backbone issues as far as how this grant would help the county itself communicate to the volunteers, not to our fire departments. There is money in this grant that will help us with the equipment here, not out at the various sites, and I apologize for that. But there's a chunk of money that we are being used for that. So,
Okay.
But again, I got both Chief Kitterman and Chief Schmidt here. Of course, Chief Schmidt, once again, just congratulations to her for being recognized and was up for Women of Distinction Award, and Kane Bien Faces in the Crowd. Just another tip of the hat to her. But if there's any questions specifically about either grant, this is our people. They've both spent a considerable amount of time putting these grants together. They're not easy. They're tough. There's a lot of administrative work that goes on behind them, a lot of gathering of figures and other information, and they're here to answer any of those questions for you.
Thank you. Ms.
Madam
Gail,
Chair.
Ms. Jim? Commissioner Drews, please.
First of all, I just appreciate the time and effort that went into putting this together. It was great work, substantial reward for it, and the reward will help considerably in moving forward with the communication. So appreciate all the effort and time that was put into this. Know that you're not full-time doing this kind of thing in grant writing. Grant writing isn't typically usually the easiest thing to do, so appreciate it. Thank you much.
Welcome.
So just one question. At only 10% the overall cost to each agency, do you know what that 10% will end up being for each agency? And where's that funding source, Gail, or are you just?
So the excuse me, overall, the project total is just over $1 million for the communication stuff. FEMA's portion is $915,458.17. And then the VFD portions will be $91,545.82.
Okay.
And so the breakdown then becomes in each of the agencies, the 17 agencies in the county that are part of this grant. And those kind of vary. And I have a spreadsheet. I can certainly give you that information. I don't have it with me. For instance, my agency, the Rockerville Volunteer Fire Department, we're just about $100,000 total. And so our breakdown is just a little over $9,000 that we will be paying of that portion of the radios.
So each individual fire department pays their own. It doesn't come out of fire administrator budget or reserves.
That is correct, except for there are a few radios that will go to the fire admin. And yes, so there's some of those that will be utilized as well that are a part of this grant.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Questions?
No questions.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you for your
Thank you
hard
for
work.
the great job, you guys. Another kudos to the volunteer fire departments, how they save us money, and we did go to the banquet. Many of us, some people were out of town, commissioners, but they thanked you very much with their some of the gifts and stuff that we all gave as a team for your fire department in appreciation for everything you guys do for us. So thank you again for everything that volunteer fire departments and our career fire departments do for us.
Thanks to all of you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. 19 is items from equalization. Where's Shannon?
He was here.
He's not here.
Somebody sent a text and he was upstairs.
My fault, he'd asked me to.
I say we charge him like donuts or something.
I doubt it.
Let's do a table, till he comes down. Motion to table on number 19, please.
Second?
Motion by
LaCroy?
Lloyd, LaCroy, and second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Madam
Motion-
Chair,
Motion carries.
I would ask to be excused for a short, brief period of time.
Okay. Thank you, Gary. Gary's going to do a, thank you, speech for the, at the CARE campus today for some people visiting. Holly, if you can give us a little background on that, just a point of privilege here. Just a little background on where Gary's going on behalf of the commission.
The legislature, and I apologize, I'm drawing a blank right now, JCA, which is the joint,
Powers Agreement.
no,
PA?
JCA, Joint Committee Appropriations
There you go.
with the legislature.
Yes.
There's approximately, to my knowledge, about 25 people that are in town to tour our CARE campus. And so Gary is over there to welcome the legislators and thank them for coming and learning about our program and in conjunction with the mental health study that was done. And so he's taken a moment to do that and go greet the legislators. And there's several members of the LRC staff as well here, so.
Thank you.
And I think they're touring the Senate building at 4 o'clock today too, so.
We appreciate them being here and Gary doing that for us. Thanks for the, letting me have that point of privilege. Let's go back to we do have a equalization man in the audience. Let's go ahead and take that off the table if we could on number 19.
So move.
Second?
Move to pull off the table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. That was by DeSanto and LaCroy. Sorry, Kara.
Good morning, Shannon Rittberger, Director of Equalization. I apologize for being late. My warning notification process failed.
That'd be lots, like a couple dozen donuts, I think, for one for your staff and one for us. Just kidding.
So there's two abatements in front of you. These are the start of, I think, 10 or 12 that you're going to see. They have to go to the cities first. These didn't. These are mobile homes that have delinquent tax bills that the sheriff's office has determined that the tax bill is uncollectible. In these two situations, one of them is actually left and gone, and it no longer exists in the county. We didn't know that. So, of course, the sheriff's office can't collect because whoever owns it isn't around, and neither is the trailer house. The other one, this is a problem we face with some of these trailer houses. The other one is still here. My appraiser thinks it has a little bit of value. The sheriff's office put it up for auction twice and nobody bid on it. And the sheriff's office doesn't want to take it because then we own it and we don't want to own it. The owners of it, I think on this particular one are dead, the title holders. So even the sheriff's office can't collect money from dead people. So we're stuck in a situation here where we can't keep perpetuating a tax bill and they never going to get paid.
Thank you, Shannon. So do we have a motion to this effect?
Madam Chair,
Approval of the abatements.
I'll second.
Moved by Santo, second by Roskinick. Question, Roskinick?
No.
Question.
Question by Commissioner LaCroy.
I just have this question because we're at a situation, and I appreciate some of the help. I haven't contacted you about it, but what happens if somebody abandons a mobile home? It's not on the property, but pulls it off.
Okay.
So the tax is still there, but.
More to the story. What do you mean somebody abandons a mobile home? It's in a trailer court and they walk off and leave it?
No, they hauled it off and got it in a parking lot somewhere.
Oh, okay. They moved it without a moving permit.
No, they got a permit, but it expires.
Okay, so they moved it. Somebody owns that thing.
There you go.
Somebody moves it, and if we find out and the moving permit tells us that it moves, we change the location, might change taxing district or whatever, but we still got the owner on it. We just create a tax parcel that has a new location on it. So that person still owes taxes on that.
They're still liable. Now, just to follow up on this last one that you said where the people passed away, so now you have a mobile home that the county don't want, they don't want, you have a title in hand, somebody would probably want it, but how are they gonna get it? I mean,
Too many times the title, when you say title in hand, the title holder is gone and so is that title. So what has to happen is whoever property is it's sitting on can apply for abandoned title and go through that process and get title to it. This one, the guy don't want it.
so now, no offense, but
Lloyd does. Just kidding.
no, but I mean, what's gonna happen? That person doesn't want it, we don't want it. Whose ever land it is, if he goes to move it, he's gonna have to get a permit, and he doesn't have.
That could be really difficult to get a moving permit if you don't have title. The state is obnoxious about that. But that abandoned title process fixes that. That gives you title and then you can move it.
But I'm just curious, because some of these times we've run into a lot of people abandoned vehicles and so forth, and the process to get it's not worth it. There's only certain, so then people take upon themselves to destroy the property.
Yeah, okay, so the state has changed the laws to make it easier to haul it to the dump. You can get a moving permit quicker if you're going straight to the dump with it.
Okay.
It's made it a lot easier. I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's a whole lot easier than what it used to be.
I'll talk to you later.
Any other discussion? I'd like to take a minute to thank Shannon. He actually has been helping, doing some searching for some of our missing people, and we appreciate that he does something besides just be the equalization director. Teasing you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Shannon helps out a lot, and we appreciate you, Shannon, a lot, and the sheriff's department as well. So just a personal thank you from our commission for everything you do for us, including equalization. So thank you, Shannon.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Item 20 is items from Human Resources. John Morrell, please.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Point of order, I think we need to vote on that.
I thought we voted.
Oh, we did vote on it. We voted on
We did.
it. Never mind.
We just let you have personal privilege.
Much talking in between.
We had, we had Lloyd on some personal privilege, but we didn't call it. We just, Lloyd had questions, we let him ask. Number 20, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Morrow, Pennington County Human Resources. So the item I have before you today is actually changing when the longevity checks or the timing of that payment to our employees that had been here for extended periods of time. When this was approved and implemented for 2019, it was done with the request that those be issued as a separate check. Again, with direct deposit, we don't have separate checks, so it's been just within our payroll processing period that was done. On the monthly pay cycles, that wasn't as much of a challenge. Now that we've moved to biweekly pay cycles, we already have at least 2 pay cycles every month, and then issuing the longevity check as a separate payment, again, would create the 3rd and or 4th, in some cases, pay cycles each month. That's extremely cumbersome. What I'm seeking here today is approval just to put that longevity check in with the normal pay cycles. It'd still be listed as a separate line item. The departments are still notified that they have those occurring and can, again, call out those for their employees as they wish.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
John, so you're putting it in the direct deposit instead of giving the separate check now, right?
Yes, sir. We've been doing that,
Okay.
yes.
I mean, that's what I kind of struggled with when I read this, because I've been a part of those discussions, and that was one of the whole reasons of doing the separate checks. It was to make it recognizable to that employee, and it was quite the discussion and struggle to get the separate check. Now here we are a year later saying, that doesn't mean anything, let's switch it back because of payroll.
We don't issue paper checks, so again, it's a separate deposit made on their behalf into their account with recognition, again, that it's for that purpose, for longevity, but it's not been a separate check per se.
Hasn't been since
No, it's just
day
been a
one.
separate deposit into their account.
So nothing's been followed that we were discussing.
Not with regard to that. So
separate
again, there wasn't any paper checks being cut from the get-go with that
'Cause I thought
process.
when Cindy come on board, she was gonna try and make that happen.
They did do it separately so that the recognition was there, so you get your paycheck and then you get that in addition.
Okay.
But we went away with paper payroll checks a
Long
long time
time
ago.
ago.
Yeah,
So
years.
they followed it in the sense that you
Okay.
wanted it separately,
So,
but it wasn't being taxed appropriately.
Correct.
So we would like you to just allow us to combine it into the second payroll check so that the taxes are all run at one time. So, yes, it would not be done separately unless that's your direction.
oh, no, I'm just going by what
Right, what the
we were
discussions
going
were.
by, and through the committee, I remember we wanted it separate because to give the employee the recognition, and we had good discussion on it.
Do that.
And I was just struggling, I'm going, God, why are we going back now? You know,
No, and again, they were being made as a separate processing piece and a separate deposit into their accounts, but it's never been a paper check. It's always just been a separate process and a separate deposit. Because of the tax challenges we have with regard to separate payments, and again, because of the frequency of our new pay cycles, that's difficult at best to accomplish. So we're just seeking permission to actually still pay them for that. It'll still be recognized on their pay stub as a separate pay item, but it would be part of the second check each month.
Any other questions? Anybody in the audience, any of the staff have any questions on this? No? Okay, a motion or discussion? You have a motion?
Move to approve.
Moved by Ross Connect. Second by Hadcock. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you,
Item
Commissioners.
21 is Aztec Drive request, Donald Herman, sorry.
Well, not long ago, I went to see my doctor, about 3 days ago. She walked in the office and she said, "You're still alive?" That's probably what you're thinking about me. I know Deb, don't know the rest of you. But anyway.
You're a real quiet man, as I remember.
What?
You're a real quiet man, as I remember, Donald.
Well, I don't know. Anyway, I'm Don Herman. I own 3 or 4 businesses around here and some other stuff. But anyway, I have lived on Aztec Road since 2002. So I've been there 18 years, or 2001, 18 years. And I thought at first when they sold me the house, they said it was a private drive. Then I found out it wasn't. It was a county road. Then apparently the county approved the developers putting in that road. That's what I would call it. In 2006, I came up before the county commissioners, and I think there was a bunch of them. I can't remember. I think it was Paul Ness, Leo Ham, and a bunch of them. And basically, Jan Heine, the past highway superintendent, he came up and he said there was, how did he say there was over 500 something unmanned, unmaintened roads in Pennington County. Well, along comes a couple of years later, Don Holloway, and Don went and researched it. He found out there's only 41. Not only that, the cost was said before was millions, but now it's all of a sudden down to 250,000. You'll find that in the Rapid City Journal article. So I guess where we're at, South Dakota law says basically you're supposed to maintain it if you own it. You know, but we've been doing it as private people and taking care of the road. 4 times I have patched that road and paid for it. My cost, I have paid taxes of $72,000 in my house alone in that time, and I don't know how much you've collected from the other houses. I spent $14,500 on road repairs, and I just added another $2,200. I've spent many hours and money on time and equipment. Comes up to about $18,000. That's for a side-by-side 72-inch plow, snow salt spreaders, 6-inch 4x4, 60-inch 4x5 snow plow. So I've had all that, and nothing Bill. I called your county superintendent here about 2 or 3 years ago and was concerned about the condition of the road getting worse and worse, and never did get back to me. So I don't know. In all the 18 years, I've asked you guys 2 or 3 times for help, and that's never got a reply even. I don't know why. Well, the road got pretty rough here this last summer, to where I was a little scared to take that side-by-side 72-inch blade and go down there and try to snowplow. I got some new neighbors, Mr. Ricola and Mr. Hubert.
Ethan Hudson, excuse me.
Ethan Hubert. And so I got new neighbors again. I've gone through quite a few of them. Or not really that much, 2 or 3. Now, observing county maintenance, I've never seen any maintenance done on Sunridge Road or any of those roads up on Sunridge Drive. Never. The only thing I've ever seen is snow removal and maybe sanding it. That's about it. Oh, they've done some work on Wideview Road, but, took them all day. He did our 750 feet in about half a day. It's... So Mr. Huber has a plan. We kind of like to know who owns the road, or what are you guys going to do about your road? Well, we have some plans, what we want to do. By the way, Ponderosa Ridge and Sunridge, that whole area has only one exit. And if you look in your fire logs and stuff, it's supposed to be 2 exits. So here at the end of that road district, you guys went and separated Echo Drive and Aztec Drive. There's no 2 exits. And we had a fire here, I think it was last year. There's no escape for any of the residents. So I'm wondering what you want to do about that, if anything. So Joe has some things he wants to talk about. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Herman. Mr. Hudson, please.
Yeah, Ethan Hudson. I'm a resident of 1008 Aztec Drive. My wife and I bought that house in July of this year. And as Don indicated, when we were in the process of purchasing the house, it was unclear to us whether it was a county road or whether it was a road serviced by a road district. And we're unable to ascertain that information prior to purchasing the house. Didn't affect the purchase. Don provided some information for us, the packet I think that all of you have, which was fairly informative to me. One of the questions that I have as a resident there is, what is our obligation as residents of that road to maintain it, and what obligations does the county hold? For my work, I'm a contractor. I do dabble in some DOT work. Primarily, I do general construction work. And so it becomes a question as to what are we allowed to do if it is a county road, if it doesn't currently meet county standards. Is the work that's done to it need to be held to county specifications, et cetera? We did, the 3 owners of the currently occupied lots there, go together here recently in October and put 85 tons of asphalt down just to patch the severe potholes that were on the road. It is, to some degree, an issue of personal safety and security for not only people when they're going down the road, but for the residences as well. So that really is the question, is to what degree the county can or will help with maintenance of the road, and to what degree our obligation is if the county is not going to maintain anything.
We're going to bring up the highway superintendent, and maybe he can help answer some of those questions. And then if you two'd like to come up after that, we sure welcome some more questions, or maybe anything that you need to ask him at that point too. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Herman, we're going to bring up the highway superintendent. If you'd like to, you guys can just sit in the front row if you'd like. Let him.
Get back to me. We don't want to listen to it.
You're good.
Good morning, Commission. Joe Miller again, Pennington County Highway. I'd like to just start off. Mark and I actually did go up here and looked at this road. I want you to put yourself in the seat of a one of our county snowplows going down this road.
Can you tell us how wide it is and if it's up to county standards?
We did not measure it due to the snowpack. It was difficult to figure out where the exact edge was. Mr. Herman indicated that it is 16 foot wide. State statute states that a county road must be minimum of 20 foot wide, and that's our county ordinance 14 as well. County ordinance 14 also states that it maintains a minimum, or the grade shall not exceed 12%. I've attached some pictures in your packet with the memo that I sent to you guys. The grade is anywhere from 14% to 22%. So the grade is much greater than 12% the entire way down, as well as some hairpin corners, some greater than 90 degrees, and the 90 degrees. So trying to navigate this not only in a pickup but with a plow of any kind would be dangerous at best.
Joe, that could not be navigated with a Caterpillar.
With a
With a blade.
No, absolutely not. There's 3 residents on this, and as Mr. Herman stated, there's an MOU that I believe he attached with his packet to you, and that MOU it specifically excludes, or it never refers to Echo Valley, which is what this road was previously, which is now Aztec Drive. The memorandum of understanding with the Ponderosa Road District never mentioned Echo Valley. It only mentioned Road L230, which is Sun Ridge, Wide View, and the other roads up on that ridge top.
So tell us why the county isn't maintaining this. Is it a secondary road? Do they have to apply for something? They're asking if it's theirs, what's their obligation, and what can they do next? If it can be yours, what is that process that they'd have to follow if we wanted to accept that?
Much like we did with Jim Street earlier this year, it would have to be a resolution passed by you guys. The highway department would not recommend that just due to the nature of the road. But as there's a plat in your packet that Mr. Herman provided, that on there, the plat dedicates that as a public access road. But under South Dakota state law 11.3.12, just because it's dedicated public access on a plat does not mean that the county is automatically assumed or responsibility for that. So the county is under no obligation to take it on.
So what usually happens? Do they open a road district? Mr. Hudson's also wondering what can happen so they can get, so
They could
that
form
road
their
can
own
get done.
road districts between the 3 residents or the 4 lots there. It's a public it's pretty much a driveway to those 3 residents. So they could do with it what they want, basically.
Okay. In the road district, they go to the auditor's office, am I correct?
Correct. Cindy can give some more information. I talked to Ron about that last week, and we'd like to sit down with Cindy and just figure out some more processes and procedures on exactly how road districts form and all that stuff.
And you don't find any other solution because of the grades and the width of the road? If they improve the width of the road, I mean, they couldn't really improve the grades for that resolution to move forward?
I don't think it's in the county's best interest to take this on as a road, even if, with the nature of the road and the location of that road, it's going to spend a lot of, whoever to get that to county standards is going to spend a lot of money.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek?
What subdivision is that in, Joe?
Oh,
I'm just curious who the developer was.
It was England.
So they put that road in there and they just kind of sell the property and then the future owners bear the responsibility?
Correct. There was a road district formed for the rest of those roads in the area up there, but they specifically left out that road because it was just a driveway to those 3 houses.
So if I understand it, if that if it wasn't the terrain and the width and the physical characteristics of the road itself, that might not be a problem to bring it into the county, but under the circumstances, just the physical characteristics of the road would not meet the standards that you want to be under the county.
That is correct.
Mr. Herman, if you'd like to come up, Joe, if you'd be okay with questions?
JJ Asphalt in 2006. And they measured all that road and they graded it and everything. And we laid a mat down of 2 to 3 inches. I have been on that road and I've never had a problem getting out. And if that grade is 14 to 20, I'll eat my hat. I figure it's about 12 to maybe 12 or 14 grade.
So we,
Joe, hold on. Let him speak for a
I'm
minute.
just taking a level
Yeah.
and looking at the percentage, and it comes up about, coming down, the initial hill comes down about, basically about 14, about 13, 14. And then as you go down, it eases off. But the simple fact is, yeah, there was a road district. And you guys agreed to take it, but what the road district did, and the county back then did, they excluded Aztec Drive, which was part of that road district, and gave the owners $12,200 to maintain their roads for forever, according to what I read. Simple fact is, county, nor that people who was in charge of that road district has ever come up with a, receipt for paying that $12,200 or whatever it was. So from the time I've been up there, the resistance to anything on that road, I don't care who the developer was, it's Jim England. He lives right up the road. The county sat there and taxing it, those residents, and they've been doing it for 18 years that I've been there, so it's been, since 1989?
So,
Got
Mr.
a lot of
Herman,
money.
Mr. Herman, so you did try to do a road district with the 3 or 4 people in your district? Or
What?
you didn't? Did you form or try to form a road district with your 3 or 4 people in
We
your
tried
district?
back in 2006, and Julie Pearson was the auditor then. And the encumbrance of trying to do a road district is just crazy. It's not going to work. I know, I went through it. I don't know. It's up to you guys what you want to do if you ever do. But I know I've called Mr. Superintendent here, if you remember that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
About 2-3 years ago.
that was not myself.
Okay,
but-
Joseph is our new superintendent.
What?
Joe is our new superintendent,
Well,
Mr.
I'm
Miller?
the guy after Henny's, or Henny or whatever.
Yes,
Tom Wilsey.
right. Mr. Wilsey.
So he never returned my even bothers, he said, talked for a bit, never even returned my call.
Okay, Mr. Herman, hold on a sec. We're gonna let our superintendent speak. Joe,
I'm hearing impaired, so.
you're okay, sir.
No, that was not, myself. We did get this from Joan, a week ago, and Mark and myself did go up there and take a look at it. We did take the time up there to go up there and measure the grades and see what the condition of the road was. We've been doing this with some roads with Mr. Rosknecht, just to see if it was something that was feasible for the county to do. Feasibility, yes, it's there, but is it fiscally responsible of the county to do that when it's a public access for 3 or 4 homes?
Look, we've been up there, I've been up there 18 years, gone through various neighbors, various county commissioners, I'm not sure I want the county to maintain that road. Because what I've seen of their maintenance is not, if you look at that picture.
Mr. Herman,
you just took,
Mr. Herman,
did you notice it was just free?
Mr. Herman, there's no, Joe, hold on a sec. Jay, do you have something to say?
Thank you. Jay Alderman, State's Attorney's Office. It's already been said, but I think I want to emphasize the point of there's been reference to the county agreed to take it on. The only document that I'm aware of that is being referenced to that would be that MOU. And the MOU does not reference this road, first of all, so it's not in the MOU. So the county did not, through that MOU, agree to take on the maintenance of this road. In addition, if you read the whole MOU, the very last paragraph says the county would only agree to maintain those other roads until the laws changed to add road districts in there where we don't have jurisdiction. That happened in 1995. So allegedly this MOU was signed in 92. It was void on its face by 1995. It doesn't exist. And besides, it didn't even mention this road. The other thing that I wanted to emphasize that Joe had mentioned about the plat, that confuses people, and I can understand why. The county is required to approve these plats under Chapter 11.2, but the legislature saw fit, for good reason, to say, we want you to approve plats, and on those plats will often be dedications to a public use, an easement, an access easement. So we want to have two things happen. We want you to do your job in reviewing and approving plats, but we don't want to force upon you road maintenance where there's been a dedicated public road. So the word public will confuse people that it automatically becomes a road that is the responsibility of the county. Not true. And in this particular plat, there's a note in there. So the statute says the county merely by approving a plat does not take on responsibility for any roads in that plat. That's fact. There's also a notation on that plat that says the dedication did not dedicate, it reserved the fee. So there was a question earlier on about who owns the road. And I didn't know if the question meant who literally owns the dirt under that road or who owns the responsibility to take care of that road. The responsibility is on the homeowners on that private drive, because I think this road has always been looked at and referenced as a private drive. That's why you don't see it listed as a secondary road. You don't see it in that MOU. You didn't see it in the minutes of the commission meeting where it was excluded, because it served very few people. It was a short road off of the other county roads. But I guess the point being is that the ownership of the dirt is whoever dedicated or donated that easement. So if property, if the lot owners own to the center of that road, they own the dirt underneath it. If their lot line goes to the edge of the road, it's the original developer who don't own that land and donated or granted the easement but reserved the fee. So England or whoever might be the owner of the dirt. So I just wanted to clear up some of those questions in case anybody wondered.
So basically, do we know if, Mr. Hudson, do you know if it's an easement or if it's a dedicated right-of-way or
I
what
believe
that
that it's
road is?
dedicated right away. If you look on the Pennington County's interactive map, it does show Aztec Drive as a county road. Whether or not that's accurate or not, I'm not sure. One of my questions would be something that Joe referenced is that basically it's a driveway to those three properties. And going back to one of the questions that I had previously, if that were the case, if the county did not have ownership of it, we'd be free to do with it as we saw fit. One of the questions that I have, because I understand that it may not be fiscally responsible, as Joe said, for the county to repave the whole road. It is a financial burden on us as homeowners to continually do something with it when we didn't originally design or implement the grade of the road. So the question therein lies, is it a county road? Has it been deeded to the county, the easement, the access to it? Or is it up to us to do with as we see fit? To pave it as we see fit and to post private no trespassing so that we don't have, excessively loaded vehicles coming down the road.
So is PJ here? Is PJ here to, sorry, DeSanto, to see if he can answer that, because that should be, basically, I think, Jay, you said it was the homeowner's responsibility based on, even if it's public right of way. And number two, that if you pave it and do the things you need to do, that you need to bring it up to county standards, does he, at that point?
No.
Or not?
No. I would like to point out, it says specifically on the plat that Mr. Herman provided, there's a 40-foot wide public access easement. It's stated right on the plat that you guys received in your packet.
Do you understand that, Mr. Hudson? So that is basically a driveway, if I'm correct.
Public access.
In the 2007 memo from Heine Young, he said the note further provides Any land shown on the within plat as roads, drives, and trails is hereby dedicated to public use as in easement, right of way. As such forever, but such dedication shall not be construed to be a donation of the fee of such land. So it's a dedicated easement. It didn't dedicate the dirt, dedicated an easement to use that roadway or trail for public purpose.
So who would the responsibility of that, if whoever owns the easement, they're responsible for the road? Who's I think Mr. Hudson's trying to get to who's responsible for, if it's not the county, is it the guy that owns the easement?
The
Jay?
easement is for the benefit of the landowners on that easement, so I would say the landowners have the responsibility. They could form a homeowners association and collect some money, and fortunately, it sounds like they have an individual that has some specific expertise and ability in road construction or maintenance. They can form a road district and tax themselves. Or they can just do it on their own, but it's not, as I've read through this, it is not Pennington County's responsibility unless the five of you want to make it so. But it is not Pennington County's responsibility to maintain this road.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner DeSanto.
It also appears to me from what Jay said earlier that you guys can, I believe, what I'm hearing is you guys can do what you need to do with that road. However, you cannot put up a private drive sign because it's public access. But as far as being able to pave it, asphalt it, whatever you want to do to make it so that it's accessible for you guys and more easily maintained, you can do what you want to do, but you just can't put up a private drive sign.
There was a question as to whom owns it. I know that I don't own a portion of that road. Who does own it? Ms. Hadcock was asking whether or not the original developer owns that road and if they own some sort of liability or responsibility for maintaining it. Nothing when I purchased that property had any sort of deed associated with that road. Another question I would have would be, you know, if it is basically a driveway, is Pennington County going to require a building permit to pave it? It is currently asphalt in one state of disrepair or another.
Joe, do you know?
That would be a question for PJ. I don't know if they would, I don't know exactly their requirements for a building permit.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner.
PJ's upstairs in Register of Deeds right now pulling the plat for this, and he'll
Okay.
be right down. If
Okay.
you want to table for a few minutes, or if you want to continue your
Madam Chair.
discussion.
Little more discussion?
Just to say, Jay, can I ask you a question? So if you go to Rapid Map and you click on that, it's not gonna show any ID number. I mean, these homeowners aren't being taxed on that road. I assume that their plat goes up to that. You said it was platted, right? That road was platted?
On the little copy we have, I think that's why PJ is trying to get a better.
PJ's behind you, Jay.
And the tax piece, of course, would be a Shannon Ritberger question, is how they have.
I'm just curious. I don't want these folks that think they're paying taxes on that road if that road isn't part of their legal description. That was my point.
And of course, the unorganized road tax, you'd be using that to maintain secondary and county highway system roads, not private drives.
I think what we're getting at here, guys, is it's not a county road, but the question is to help you so you can move along is to ask PJ is what kind of access it is and who owns that road. So I think at this point, it's not a county road. We can accept that county road, but based on the grade and the width and some other
Understood.
things, our highway superintendent is not requesting that we take that road on. But we need to answer your questions if we could, Mr. Hudson, and anything we can't after this, we'll have you go up to the planning just to make sure. PJ, if you could help us a little bit.
Sure, yeah, I was watching on the video, so I ran over to Register of Deeds. So sorry I didn't come down when you asked. Unfortunately, pulling the plat from 1973 isn't going to answer any questions today. The road used to be called Echo Road, we know that. And plats today also are usually signed by a street authority that takes some ownership and responsibility. This plat has no certification of a street authority. So we're just going to, I don't have a clear answer for you today.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy.
What about one of the questions he had about, okay, so the residents are gonna maintain it. So if they wanna go in and make some changes, are they gonna have to come and get a building permit? If they maintain it as is, not changing anything, just resurfacing that type of, do they have to come get a building permit?
If the work is over 10,000 square feet, they would need a construction permit.
Okay, so that answers one question. I guess my thoughts on this is, after listening to all this and the history of this, is it was never incorporated. It would be very tough for you to get the county to take it over with the grades and not being up to the standards that it is. So I think the option is, commissioners, is the road district, our homeowners association to maintain it. I think one of the slight question that I got out from listening to you, sir, is that you're worrying about responsibility of the road, right? I mean, if somebody has an accident on there, that type of thing, is that
That's
something?
part of it. One of the, and I haven't lived there very long, so you have to forgive me for that. But one of the, if you look at that rapid map picture, the southernmost house there on the left side, that house had burned down at some point, and the volunteer fire department, they were unable to get access. You know, it had to burn. They rebuilt it. That is what it is. So the question is, whose responsibility is it for maintaining that road for, you know, for personal safety, for safety of property? I understand now from speaking to the commission that it's the responsibility of us as the homeowners. There obviously are some questions that cannot be answered here based on the age of it. One of the follow-up questions I would have is, if it's over 10,000 square feet, if it would have to have a building construction permit, whether or not Pennington County would be willing to waive the fee, considering everything that has gone on and some of the lack of knowledge from current homeowners with regards to what the situation was, and if the county would be able to assist in determining who actually owns the road. If you look on Rapid Map there, people's property lines don't go to it.
So, Mr. Hudson, I don't think we're going to solve that issue today, but I think with planning department and register of deeds and some research, you'll probably be able to figure that out. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
From today, we know it's not on the county highway system, and our question for us today is, are we going to accept it? After that, we do have a PJ from the planning that can help you, and if you have questions for Superintendent Miller as well, you can call him, and then kind of move forward that way, because I think at this point, Superintendent is saying it's not a county road, and there needs to be, we're saying needs to be more research from you, but we also are here as commissioners. If you need to talk to us and you need more answers after this meeting, you can always call us as well, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek.
Mr. Hudson, when you said you bought your home this summer?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Did you go through a realtor?
Yes, sir.
Did they explain to you who's going to maintain the road?
They didn't know at the time. I knew that it would potentially be an issue just by trying to be an informed buyer. So I spoke with my mortgage banker about it, saying, hey, I'm not sure if this is a county road or if there's a private road district, and I wanted to make sure that we were out in front of it. It didn't end up becoming a thing. It wasn't something that the loan required. So
I'm just thinking that the folks that buy these lots or homes, they're buying them as is. There's under the circumstances of the condition of the road. So
sure. And one of the things that we did is, I had some of my guys, I mentioned previously, for professional, I'm a contractor. We went through and we laid 85 tons of asphalt and rolled it. It's not a perfect surface, but it's far better than it was, just so that we could make it through the winter here. But it's ongoing maintenance and stuff like that we want to figure out who the responsibility falls upon, and if the responsibility falls upon us, to what standards and specifications we need to meet.
I know we talked about a road district and maybe with 4 homes, that doesn't make sense, but
Sure.
it's my understanding, we've been working on these road district issues, that if you are a road district, you might not get a lot of income from the taxation of the 4 parcels, but you can purchase, products at a discount, can't you, Joe?
Yes, as a government entity, you know, you can, a lot of times, you know, you can, as a government entity, you have the same privileges as the county or the city, because you're your own government entity at that point. Yes, as Mr. Herman said, it takes a lot of work because you have to have people sit on your board. It runs just like this government here in Pennington County, just on a much smaller scale.
I guess if you had a higher density, it'd be a little easier to swallow. That's what makes it tough, is just, the 4 homes.
You know, one thing
I don't
it
have
was a
anything else
road
for now.
district, and it was in a road district. Aztec Drive was in a road district. They made a deal, the county did, with that road district to exclude Aztec Drive, didn't they? And they did it on the basis of $12,200 to the owners of Aztec Drive. That's when they separated Echo and Aztec. So, fine, we've been going along with that. I went to Julie Pearson to form a road district, and it was just absolutely impossible with 3 owners. And we had one lot owner, Gene Woodell. He was an attorney, but he died, so it's in an estate now. But as far as I'm concerned, I would like some, if we build this a lot better road, and then you guys come along and say, hey, it's our road. Come. I'm not going to stick another $10,000, $20,000, or $40,000 into a road.
So, Mr.
And
Herman,
then you guys claim it.
Mr. Herman, once you, Mr. Hudson, and you research that deed or the road, you'll be able to tell us and at that time, more of the information. If that comes forward that we accepted it or we did something else before, or we said you couldn't do a road district, I mean, that's different. But at this point, we don't know. Well, we've been told it's a public easement and that it was basically a driveway. So based on that, this board would have to accept or deny that we wanted to take this road on. And based on what Jay said, it's basically for the homeowners at this point to form a road district or repair it themselves based on, if I'm correct, county standards. So I would suggest again to talk to PJ and go to Register of Deeds and do some checking on this property and then move forward from there. Because in the past, obviously, it was never accepted. There was never a road district, so now you know where to move forward. We're trying to help you in the next step, and we need to move forward as well. Does that make sense? Thank
Madam
you.
Chair,
Commissioners?
just for the record, you guys, that's not us. That's another commission before us, so I don't want to be referred to as the original author of this.
Yes. So do we have a motion or any more discussion?
Is there a motion needed?
Yes, you need to accept Aztec Drive onto the county highway system and bring it up to safe conditions or deny request for county to repair and pay for
I
repairs.
make a motion to deny request for county to repair.
Okay, DeSanto in denial. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ross Connect. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. If you have any other questions, Mr. Hudson, you can also call any of us. We'll help you. Thank you, sir. Items from Highway Department, Superintendent Miller.
Let me find my memo here. All right. This is the second reading of ordinance 32, again, brought to you previously at the previous meeting. This is to increase the fine or the penalty for dumping snow in a right-of-way. As previously stated, we had, we always have issues with this during the course of winter, just people either not knowing or not having any other place to put it. this is something that gives it a little more teeth as far as the fine goes. It was $50 previously. Now it will be $500 or 30 days in jail. This isn't going to be something that we find somebody that does it first time, right? It's going to be a warning based, and the repeat offenders we will turn over to the state's attorney, and they can go from there.
Okay. Do we have discussion or a motion, please?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner
move,
LaCroy.
move to approve the second reading and adoption of ordinance 32-1.
Second?
Moved by LaCroy, second by DeSanto. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's anyone from items from planning and zoning that would like to speak on their item, we do have speaker requests on the back of the dais, or back of the commission office here, or whatever you call us, boardroom. On the back on the bookcases, you can give those speaker requests to Miss Holly on the left with the black shirt on here today. So next we'll do items from planning and zoning consent agenda, please.
Yes, ma'am. PJ Conover, Director of Planning Department, item 23. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine planning and zoning items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board, and items that are removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. The consent agenda for planning and zoning contains the following items. Item A, Major Plan Unit Development Amendment Review 1806 for Catherine Sopinski. Rob Livingston is the agent, and approval has been recommended. Item B, Minor Plat 1925 for Julie Benson Wilbur, and it's been recommended to be continued. Well, it was continued from the October 1st, 2019 board meeting, but approval is now being recommended. Item C, Minor Plat 1928 for Brad and Colleen Kurtz, and approval has been recommended. Item D, Minor Plat 1930 for Olson Rental Properties LLC. Aaron Olson is the owner, and approval has been recommended. Item E, Minor Plat 1931 for Double L Properties LLC, and approval has been recommended. Item F, Minor Plat 1932 for Deborah Legge, Fisk Land Surveying as the agent, and approval has been recommended. Item G, Minor Plat 1934 for Jeffrey Shear, and approval has been recommended.
Thank you, PJ.
You're welcome.
At this time, is there anybody from the public who wish to speak on items A through G? At this time, is there any commissioner who would like to remove any items A through G from the consent agenda?
Item A.
Item A. So can we have a approval of all items except item A?
So move.
Moved by Drews,
Second.
second by DeSanto. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Item A, Commissioner Roskinick.
PJ, has there been any negative feedback on that item A? Because I think we agreed to look at that in 1 year to see because I know the neighbors were pretty upset about that.
From my knowledge, there haven't been any complaints, which is why approval has been recommended.
Okay, that was my question.
Any other discussion, Commissioner? If not, can we have a motion on item A, please?
Move for approval.
Second.
By LaCroy, second by Roskinick. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item H, please.
Item H is Plan Unit Development Amendment 0105 for William Anderson, Cliff and Billy Janis, and SL Holdings LLC. This actually started as a complaint relative to the storage units on the northeast corner. Staff and the landowners are taking the opportunity to update a plan unit development that has not been updated since 2001. This has been continued several times because staff has been unable to meet the major landowner and the actual original applicant of the PUD, Mr. Anderson. And just as of yesterday, was able to speak with him. He's been out of the state for some time, and we have a site visit scheduled for this week to go out. So we've been able to contact everybody, and we can move forward with this. There have been no further issues as far as we're aware of the original complaint on the storage units. So that's why this has been continued. So with that, staff will be recommending to continue the review of Plan Unit Development Amendment 0105 to no later than the January 7th, 2020 Board of Commissioners meeting to allow time for staff and the landowners to meet and address the complaint and possible amendments to PU 0105.
Madam Chair, that'd be my motion.
Motion to continue no later than January 7th by Drews.
Second.
Second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Item I, please.
Yep. Item I is the first reading, public hearing of Plan Unit Development Amendment 1905 and first reading and public amendment of Major Plan Unit Development Amendment 1906 for Rockerville Gold Town LLC. Pat Hall is the owner, Brian Hammerback is the agent. The request is to review 20.8 acres from Highway Service District and General Agriculture District to a planned unit development and to amend the existing planned unit development to allow for townhomes, apartments, and commercial businesses. The request from the applicants matches the recommendation from the Planning Commission, which is to recommend, Planning Commission recommends approval of the continuation of the hearing of Plan Unit Development 1905 and also recommends approval of the continuation of the hearing for Major Plan Unit Development 1906 with one condition.
With no date on the
Correct,
continuation.
they're not sure when they want it brought back up.
Okay, so,
So this would have to be re-advertised then at that time?
Correct, and that is the one condition, the understanding from the landowner that they have to re-advertise.
okay, do we have a motion to
Madam
that
Chair.
effect? Commissioner?
PJ, if the comprehensive plan is approved, then we're not going to be looking at a plan unit development no more. This would be a conditional use permit instead.
Because the application will be applied for, I'm sure, before the comprehensive plan is approved, the planned unit development would stay in effect.
Okay, that was.
Be grandfathered,
Yeah.
yes.
Good question. Is there a motion to continue?
So move.
Moved by LaCroy.
Second.
Second by Ross Connect. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item J, please.
Item J is layout plat 1929 for Jeremiah and Trista Velchek, which is a request to consolidate, sorry, I just got to pull up this thing here, to consolidate two lots into one to create a lot, proposed lot 6R, or to be 2.06 acres. The current, come on, here we go, any day. The current situation is there's one lot that has a single-family residence on it to the north, and then also an empty lot to the south. The applicant owns both lots, and because of some future buildings and future plans that they have to construct, they're looking to remove the interior lot line and consolidate both 1.03 acre lots into a 2.06 acre lot. This was routed through to an interdepartmental review, and no items of concern came back at this level. This will decrease density in the Black Gap subdivision, and for the purposes of a layout plat, staff finds no significant issues with the applicant's request and therefore recommends approval. And so does the Planning Commission recommend approval of layout plat 1929 with 6 conditions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved by DeSanto, second by LaCroy on approval with 6 conditions. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. PJ, do I have,
Your next item is going to be item K.
is K the 8 conditions and then, because we have,
Oh, sorry, let me go back there.
there's no K, K's of the Battle Creek Fire District, but we didn't do Par Properties, Paul Zweifel.
Item J.
Paul Zweifel is supposed to be K.
I'm sorry?
Paul Zweifel is supposed to be item K. You got Battle Creek Fire District,
Oh.
so let's go to K, which is Par Properties, Paul Zweifel, and make sure, commissioners, you're looking at,
And that's 1936?
yes, sir.
Okay. Item K is layout plat 1936 for Par Properties. The request is to subdivide and create lots 1, 2, and 3 of Par Properties. The applicant is Par Properties and the surveyor is Brad Limbo. The current property is 10 acres. What the applicants are looking to do is to consolidate, to subdivide this lot into 3 equal-sized lots. There are some existing buildings on the subject property, kind of a faraway picture, but it shows you right here. Access is taken off of divided road. There's no special flood hazard area on the property. The only item of concern that staff has as far as the structures go is a cabin that's 16 by 21 feet that appears to have been built sometime between 2013 and 2016 without a building permit, but not necessarily something that's going to hold up a recommendation for a layout plat at this time. With the creation or the proposed creation of the 3 lots, lot 1 would be vacant, lot 2 would have a manufactured home and a barn and a tool shed, and lot 3 would have the cabin that we just spoke about. This was routed through their interdepartmental review. The only item of note that I'd like to mention is one from the County Highway Department, where they mentioned that subdividing a 10-acre parcel would require either rezoning or a variance, which staff absolutely agrees with. But further, they said that Divide Road will not be improved to meet section 500.5 standards of the subdivision regulation, or a variance would need to be obtained to the subdivision regulations, and that drainage ways must be maintained on the property and on the road. There was considerable amount of comments back from the U.S. Forest Service. It's more so about the easements, but they do not object to this request of the subdivision. For the purposes of a layout plat, staff finds no significant issues with the applicant's request, and staff and the Planning Commission would recommend approval of layout plat 1936 with 8 conditions.
We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ross Connect,
Second.
second by Drews. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item L.
Morning, Commissioners. Jason Fennison, County Planner.
Morning, Jason.
Morning. Agenda item L is for layout plan 1937 to subdivide and create lots A and B of Rushmore Ranch Estates. The applicant, Battle Creek Fire District, has applied for LPL 1937 to subdivide one existing lot and create 2 lots. As it sits today, the lot is zoned Planned Unit Development District, consisting of 7.18 acres. It houses the Haywood Volunteer Fire Department, an on-site wastewater treatment system, as well as the Rushmore Ranch Estates well. There's no special flood hazard area on the property, and it takes access off of Highway 40. Oops. Proposed lots A and Lot B, as you can see on the right under proposed lots, both of those will remain zoned Planned Unit Development District, and there will be no special flood hazard areas on those lots. Lot A is identified in blue on the right. It'll be 6.479 acres. We'll also house the Haywood Volunteer Fire Department and the on-site wastewater treatment system and take access off of Highway 40. The lot identified in red will be 0.701 acres, will contain the Rushmore Ranch Estates well and take access off of Rushmore Ranch Road. The request was sent out for interdepartmental review, and the Register of Deeds had a comment. That being lots A through H of Rushmore Ranch Estates subdivision already exist. They suggest using lots J and K of Rushmore Ranch Estates for the identification of these 2 lots. As I mentioned, this is a Planned Unit Development District, and that is under PUD 0205. Condition 1 of that PUD states, that lot described as well-tracked in Phase 1 be allowed to be subdivided into 2 lots, and that the use of one lot shall be as a well-tracked, and that the use of the other lot be as a fire station. So with that, for purposes of layout plan, staff finds no significant issues with the applicant's request, as it appears to be in harmony with the planned unit development. And staff recommends approval of layout plan LPL 1937 with 5 conditions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved by DeSanto, second by Drews. Just one question. Tell me about the Register of Deeds, the lot JK. I mean, is there gonna be a confusion on lots? You had said something about the Register of Deeds said it was something
Right.
different.
A through H has already been taken in that subdivision,
Okay,
so they recommended
J and K. So then they're just gonna call it J and K, is what you're saying?
That's one of the conditions.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, Jason.
bet.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item M, please.
Item M is rezone 1913 and comprehensive plan amendment 1913, which is a request to rezone 3.02 acres from planned unit development to low-density residential district, and to amend the Pennington comprehensive plan to change the future land use from planned unit development sensitive to low-density residential district. The applicant is Leslie McGordy, who is in the audience today if you have any questions. The subject property, again, is 3.02 acres. On the property, let me just pull up an aerial here. You'll see that there's multiple addresses because at one time there were multiple single-wide mobile homes, including outbuildings to the northeast. Almost the entire property is covered in special flood hazard area. This was created as a PUD in 2008, reviewed in 2009, 2011, in 2013 and most recently 2017 to basically allow a non-conforming property to exist with the 3 mobile homes. When Ms. McGroarty bought this property a few years ago, her intention was to remove the mobile homes and to clean up the property. I can happily say that she has done an incredible job with that, and even the neighbors have come in and complimented her on the work that she's done on the property and cleaning it up. The reason that she'd like the rezone is that the plan unit development sensitive is actually too restrictive for what she wants to do on the property with a single family residence, and therefore she's looking to bring it into harmony with the Pennington County Comprehensive Plan. Current zoning around the area also matches in harmony with the low density residential request. And with that, staff would recommend approval of the rezone 1913 and Comprehensive Plan Amendment 1913.
Is there a motion, please, or discussion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved by LaCroy, second by Ross Connect. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item N, sorry.
That's all right. Item N is first reading and public hearing of rezone 1915 and Comprehensive Plan Amendment 1915 for Harold Beese to rezone 40 acres from general agriculture to limited agriculture district and to amend the Pennington County Comprehensive Plan from suburban residential district to limited agriculture district. The subject property is 40 acres and currently vacant of any structures at this time. The applicant's request is to subdivide the subject property into 4 equal lots of 10 acres apiece, which would have to be done through the city of Rapid City as it exists within their platting jurisdiction. This was routed through their interdepartmental review and no items of note came back. The city of Rapid City does recommend, or does not protest or recommend denial of this. They actually believe that it is in harmony with their master plan for their what they call low density neighborhood. What the current comprehensive plan says is suburban residential, which is a higher density. So his request actually is to make it a lower density, low density for limited agriculture at 10-acre minimums. Staff has found no issues that would warrant denial of this rezone at this time, and staff recommends approval of rezone 1915 and Comprehensive Plan Amendment 1915.
Move for approval.
Moved by DeSanto,
Second.
second by Ross Connect. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item O.
Thank you.
Ms. Brittany.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Molitor. Item O is Layout Plat 1935 to create lots 1 and 2 of Willard Ranch subdivision. The applicant and the applicant's agent are in the audience if there are any questions. The applicant, Mr. Ken Willard, has requested to subdivide approximately 8.82 acres into 2 lots to allow for construction of an additional single-family residence. The applicant has also requested to rezone this 8.82 acres from general agriculture district to low-density residential district and to change the future land use designation from plan unit development sensitive to low-density residential district. As the property exists today, the parent parcel consists of 61.83 acres. It is zoned general agriculture district, and there is special flood hazard area on this property. The lot currently contains a manufactured home, a shop and a pole building, and a single wide mobile home. That single wide mobile home is currently utilized as a ranch hand residence. The layout plat request is for proposed lot 1, which would consist of the existing manufactured home and shop building, and proposed lot 2 would be for a future residence. The remaining balance would contain what is now the ranch hand residence, but would become the primary residence on that property. This was routed through the interdepartmental review process. There was one item that came from the county ordinance enforcement officer who indicated that it appeared that there was a business being operated from the current manufactured home and shop building. The applicant has addressed this and submitted a conditional use permit application that will be heard in front of the Planning Commission at a future date. Staff and the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this layout plan with 9 conditions.
Thank you, Brittany. Do you have a motion or discussion?
Move to approve.
Moved by Ross Connect, second by LaCroy. Just one question. Is there any other violations on this property, did you say, besides business use?
No.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Item P.
Item P is for the same property. It is the request for rezone 1914 and comprehensive plan 1914. It is to rezone those proposed lots 1 and 2 of Willard Ranch subdivision from general agriculture district to low-density residential district. The current zoning within 1 mile of this property is general agriculture district, limited agriculture district, highway service, low-density residential, and suburban residential district. Staff does believe that this is in harmony with other property in the area and how other property is being utilized. So staff and the planning commission is recommending approval of rezone 1914 and comprehensive plan amendment 1914.
Thank you, Brittany. Motion or discussion?
Move to approve.
Moved by Roskinek,
Second.
second by LaCroy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, we have 24 items from chair and commission members. One item has brought to my attention that we used to do new hires, and we used to have a practice of introducing them at the beginning of meetings, just for the sake of our team and us and them as new hires, knowing their commissioners. I thought it was a good idea that in some way we do a meet and greet, or if you want to do it at the beginning of a meeting, just something so they would understand and meet their team of commissioners before they started their new job. Any thoughts or questions?
I think that we should do this and do it the first I think it shouldn't take more than 5 minutes, I wouldn't think. First 5 minutes of the meeting.
Okay.
I don't have an issue with
Anybody
that
else
at all.
thoughts, questions?
I like the idea.
Yeah, good
Okay.
idea.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner LaCroy.
I've given some thought up when I was reading through this, and, you know, I think that your heart and everybody's is in the right place, but new hires are in a transition period of 90 days. They're in a transition period of 90 days when they're hired on to learn, see how things are going, to get comfortable. I just look at this as a person who been employed at a place with a great number of people for many years and beginning a new job. Being able to come up in front of a commission within 90 days, you know, when you're first hired, I think it's kind of a scary thing. I always thought it was better received when your employers or the manager comes up and sees you. You know what I'm saying? You have more one-on-one time to be able to take time. With our meetings, the way they go, we take great pride in recognition of the people that we bring forward for outstanding services and so forth. This is a step of a new hire. The 90 days, I believe, is like a transition period. I would almost like to get a notice, like how many new hires are with it at the beginning of the month, and sent to me, and me take time to go up to the offices, because one of the complaints that I get is that we don't go up and see them enough. That we get that concern, or we get that list, and we can go up to those offices and meet with, say hi to them, how's the job going, that type of, and visit with the other employees, then take them out of their comfort zone to come to a meeting like this and just say, hi, good to see you, thanks for coming. That's just a thought that I had when I seen this, is I thought it would be better received if we got that list and I could go up there, and it brings my responsibility as a commissioner to actually go up and see what's going on in those departments, to be able to greet that person. I happened to do something like that with the equalization. We had a new person on the desk, didn't know it. Went up and said, hi, how are you? That's just a thought that I had. I'm not saying not having it at the meeting's a bad idea or anything. I'm just looking at it from a different point of view, I think. Good perspective.
Thank you. I guess, and I like your point of view, Lloyd, but I also believe that welcoming people to part of our team right away, so they know what we look like and we know what they look like, and that they are welcome to call us at any time or invite us up to see them as well. I like knowing who my new team is, because a lot of times I do go visit those departments, but I don't sometimes know who's new unless I've been here for a while. And I just believe it's a nice gesture to say, you know, hello, this is who we are. Welcome to our team. We appreciate you coming to Pennington County. That's what we've always said before. If we don't have to come up individually if they don't want to, but just to recognize, you know, in the sense that we've got Lloyd LaCroix as a new employee. We welcome you here, sir. Just to kind of see what we do in our commission office as well, because sometimes when they're working, they don't have time to do that, and they can see what our job is as well. So I think I'm listening to you, but I also believe if it was me, I would like to see who my bosses are. I mean, you have bosses, but um, and who's part of my team. So I've always believed in that, and I always feel good when someone welcomes me to the team.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Ross Connect.
maybe we could do both. We do come to the meeting 5 minutes before, then when one of the commissioners gets a chance, one or all five, go personally introduce yourself on a more personal basis.
Well, you know, I read that, and no offense, but I'm more focused on the meeting when I'm coming to the meeting than that. You know, I may have the other stuff going on with our agenda, then I don't think I'm really personable enough, because I'm thinking I got to say hi and get going to do some other stuff. I mean, I don't. The only other question I would have is, what happens if there's some? Are you talking about making the list and putting it on the consent agenda, or like we recognize the volunteers, or you could do both? You know, they can come down and we can meet them beforehand. I guess I'm just kind of,
I think
with
it's pretty.
each department's a little bit different.
I think it's pretty simplified if you don't have to have people come up, but you can have it on the agenda like at the beginning, like we do if we're recognizing someone for a resolution or anything. I just like to recognize that we have 5 new hires. We've got Holly Hennings from Commission Office. We have Lloyd LaCroix from Pennington County Sheriffs. We have, and that way too, you know who the new hires are, and that we are recognizing that we do have some, and we'd like to welcome you here. If they don't want to speak, if they don't want to stand up, that's not what we have to do. But the main thing is we recognize that we have new teammates, and they're part of our team. Is a good way to put it.
I like what you just said, Deb. I'm thinking like, and this is kind of what I was on the line with. If it's on our agenda as consent or what, however you want, we got the list of the names to go for it. I like in the departments that they're in. I'm just leery on that 90-day transition period type thing.
They'll stay longer. I'm listening. You're right, Lloyd. I'm listening.
Madam Chair, I would see this as a little bit more informal rather than all of us just sitting behind the dais. That I think as Commissioner DeSanto said, it's not going to take very long, but at the same time, we can be out greeting them, meeting who they are, where they're working, introduce ourselves, and just as we call the meeting order, just acknowledge the new hires at that point in time. We've already done the informal meeting of them at that point in time. That's what I would see us doing. I think it's a good idea. I really do.
So more just like we said, just announcing who they are, and then if you want to meet them beforehand, you know, do that. Is that what you're saying, Gary?
I am,
Okay.
yes.
So what are we thinking, folks?
I think you just said it. Announce who they are, whether it's verbally, which I think is a good idea, but I just think I think an informal invites is more meaningful than this. I think you could do both, Deb. You verbally at the beginning of the agenda, we got so and so and so and so and so and so, so all of us know what department they are. You know, if their department head has time for them to come down, they want to do that, they can let us know. But I think it's us to go up and see it.
So I'm gonna put this back on equalization or,
Just because-
superintendent.
Just because they're here.
Yes. What would you think? Is it better to do an informal? Do you believe, you were here, Joe? Do you believe it's nice to say we have a new guy, and then did you like speaking right away, or you just like, no, I just,
It's part of the job for me, but you know, I put myself in somebody else's shoes. You know, it's a little intimidating coming to a meeting like this and being asked to stand up or whatever, you know. So, you know, and for highway, we've got people, you know, we've got 2 people that we're going to hire out of like the wall division. So there's some logistics there that would have to be figured out to get them here. So from my standpoint, I think doing it informally before the meeting and then announcing their names as part of the consent agenda, much like the volunteers, would be a better way to go about it. That way you get the personable interaction with you guys, and then I guess the public recognition as well.
okay, thank you. Any follow-up on that equalization guy?
I think it's a lot scarier when I got commissioners in my office. I agree with what he said.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. Thank you for that input too, Lloyd. That made a difference on that, but, so are we all okay with the informal put it under the volunteer, like we do on consent agenda? and then-
Verbally announce them, and then we'll go introduce ourselves later.
Okay. I don't know how you verbally announce it, unless you pull it off the consent agenda, but we
Yeah,
could do
you could
that.
pull it
Yeah,
from the
that's what I mean.
consent.
Someone can make a point
And
every
then-
time to do
and-
that if they like.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that just doesn't make sense to me. Why wouldn't we schedule it just right after the review and approval of the agenda so that you can read it off, and if they're here, they're here? I guess the biggest thing is for you guys to understand, I'll work with HR to prepare a list of new hires,
Okay.
but you've got 911, you've got highway, you've got buildings and grounds. The majority of the people, I mean, I shouldn't say the majority, but they're not all going to be here within their first week of hire. It's
Okay.
just not gonna work. So we would have to rotate and schedule as we go forward to know who's here and who's not. But we could still say, this is the new hires for the last month. Invite them, you guys do your formal before the meeting, then we still read them formally and recognize them.
That's,
Madam
Okay.
Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
I think what I was suggesting was even simpler than that, that at our meeting, as Holly said, where we don't have to pull it off the agenda, we just make an announcement. These are the new employees for the month. These are the departments that they're in. We recognize them, and that's it. They don't have to be here. They don't have to show up, anything like that. Then, on our own time, we go say hi.
Does
That way they're recognized publicly, and then we have the chance to go out and see them on, you know.
I don't think that was Deb and Gary's intent,
oh, what I messed up, I'm
unless I
sorry,
misunderstood.
is what I forgot. That's where I was getting so confused at when I was thinking about this. When you separate the sheriff's department from this building, when you're in here, I'm thinking of that, but really, sheriff does a good job of recognizing his employees because they go in through a bunch of training. It's a process to get to where they are, so they do good process that. If we're including everything, I guess, I think that's where we can get confusing because he does his and then we're gonna do.
We do it here for him too, Lloyd.
Sure.
Remember, we do their recognitions as well. Remember, we've had people lined up.
Yeah.
So
So-
what I wanted to add, if possible, is the idea really is to give the employees a chance. Sorry, I didn't want this to tip over. Give the employees a chance to meet you as individuals. So again, the more casual pre-meeting type of gathering in the commission conference room, whatever would be decided. Basically say, hey, welcome, we're glad to have you here. Do the formal acknowledgement, if you will, at the beginning of the meeting to again announce that we've got those new folks. But the goal was really to bring them all together, get them a chance to meet you. I like the idea of going up to the department, spending more time and visiting and getting to know them a little bit. But I think initially the idea was to get them together.
I guess that was.
This is a bit intimidating for anyone coming in. It's a large organization, over 800 employees. And you look at the size of our campuses and how they're structured. It's scary for someone new coming in, and they feel a little lost at first. So having a friendly face, knowing who their commissioner is, whatever, again, having that connection helps them from a longevity perspective actually want to stay with the county as well. So,
And John, I guess that was my intention in the first place, but I wanted to hear what people had to say, but it makes sense. So I am listening to what Lloyd's saying, so that's true, but if I could meet you informally first, I wouldn't be so freaked out if you just call me up like,
right.
because I believe, that's my opinion, we're pretty easy to get along with it once we visit with you and everything. It doesn't seem like we're different people than you are. Because some people are like, oh, you guys are like our bosses, but once you see we're just the same as they are, most people seem pretty cool about that. So maybe like having a meet and greet at 8:30 and then say their names up here would be, even if it's 20 people, we just have a meet and greet in the commission office.
And with regard to the law enforcement side, I would still encourage you to include them.
Yep.
They're all county employees as well and should be part of this process.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't see that it has to be the first week that they're here, you know.
Right.
Shoot for getting them in the first month, if that works out for them. But just make it so it works for their convenience also, that they
Most definitely.
So I like the idea of going over to the commission room early and doing it, so.
The good thing that I heard from John was in the chamber, or
Conference room.
conference room instead of in here. That's more informal, more out of the cameras. I don't have a problem with that. That's a good spot.
So do the informal in there and then just announce here, they don't have to come up. Are we saying they don't have to come up then? Okay, just so we meet them in there and then we just announce them in here. Perfect. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah,
We're
do you
thinking
want a
8
motion?
Are we thinking 8:30, Holly?
How about 8:45? How about we do
8:45.
it just as it says on my sheet here, before the Board of Commission meetings at 8:45 as a meet and greet, or to include formally as part of the regular meeting agenda, but do it as a meet and greet over in the conference room. Announce it when in our opening of our meeting too.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? 8:45? Do we need a motion, Holly? Can we just do it?
I would like one, please.
So moved.
Thank you.
Okay, motion by Drews,
Second.
second by Ross Connect. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Let's see what we got next. Committee reports? Do we need okay, let's go with Ross Connect first.
Now
Ross
that
Connect,
is
you're
a
first.
first.
I've been on vacation, that's not fair. But before I did go, I went to the annual Silver City Volunteer Fire Department, their annual meeting, which was held in Silver City. And it was in the old schoolhouse. I think Gary's been there. The fire felt pretty good that night because it really started slowing while we were there. But they got some really good people there, very dedicated, and they wanted to get that meeting over just as quickly as possible because they had to head to Rapid City for the banquet. So that was a good meeting. I also attended the Black Hills Council of Local Governments, which we are now a member. That's where there's different municipal governments, could be a mayor, council, commissioners, highway department, where we discuss what's going on with the members of that committee, and then we kind of a progress report. It's good to get to know those people. One of the things that's last two meetings I've been to, we talked quite a bit about the wheel tax. That's just something that's going to come down the road sooner or later. And anyhow, it was pretty short and brief. That's all I got.
Commissioner Drews?
Super. A couple things. First of all, I did attend it was called the Big Five meeting last week, and school board, WDT, Western Dakota was there, along with the city and ourselves. Western Dakota is really excited about their enrollment that they have going into this year. And one of the things that Dr. Bowman shared is that, the average age of their students going in is 25 years old. And so these are people that have been out in the world for a few years. A lot of them are GED. And so they've been working someplace and have probably figured it out on their own that a little education probably wouldn't hurt. So I think it's great that, they're excited about it. And I think the school is doing a good job. School board obviously talked about their election coming up on their bond issue next February. And as far as the city was concerned, there was some discussion relative to that pedestrian walkway there at, let's see, what street would that be on? 6th and Omaha, as to, I know it's come up before them in the initial proposal, I think was turned down, but that sounds like eventually the state is going to be involved, and they would like to see something in the future done with that pedestrian crossway going across that highway. So, and then just a short time ago, I did have the opportunity to go over and welcome on behalf of the commission primarily the Joint Legislative Appropriations Committee that's here to tour the CARE campus and learn the various programs that are going on under that roof. And I do serve on an interim study committee, and so I did make them aware that the Substance Abuse Committee that I'm serving on, and I know there's another committee relative to meth addictions, are going to probably be recommending some appropriations for programs for treatment and education for those that deal with those kinds of addictions. So this was a great group to have here today, and CARE Campus people are taking care of giving them a tour and trying to give a presentation and answer the questions. And then I did go to the Fireman's Banquet, and it was a good time, and it was good to see those people being honored that give a lot as a volunteer to the various communities within Pennington County serving as volunteer fire personnel. That's all I got.
Thank you. Thanks, Gary. I also went to the banquet recognition, and I just thought it was cool that Sheriff Tome was there and with his wife. And that we also honored a man today that's been in the fire service for 63 years, Mr. Kitterman. So that's pretty amazing. And that tells you the dedication and the commitment and the team they have together. And the main thing that you have to understand is they're all family. So I appreciate that. I like people talking with team and family, and we're all part of this. And that was what that banquet was about. So it was pretty cool. Also went to the chamber meeting. Sounds like the school board is moving forward still in February. I thought it was 26th or 25th. And it was, I thought the bond was going to be 190 million instead of 250 now. Am I correct, Gary?
196, I think is what they're talking.
Okay. And that they have Darren Hart and Val Simpson, if I'm correct, working on their campaign to move them forward. I also believe if we're going to move forward on that wheel tax, there needs to be some good timing and some things that we need to look into because of their timing as well. Because they've said one date and then another date, but it sounds like February is the deal. Where else did I go? Oh, the stall barn. I was going to announce Lloyd and Gary are the representatives there. We are having the recognition of the stall barn and invited the city, the mayor, and other people on Friday at 1:30 if everybody could be there. They do have me making that speech for that stall barn, but I'd appreciate it. And this is first Lloyd heard of this. If you would want to take that, since you are on you are the representative of the fairgrounds. If you'd like to do that for me, I would appreciate that, Commissioner LaCroix, because you are the representative. And I would defer that to you, or however you say that. I think it would be awesome because you are the representative. You know what's going on there and what their plans are for the future. So if that would be okay with you, I would be good with that.
No.
And then,
You didn't speak loud enough.
She just keeps
is that
talking.
bossing you? I just think it's pretty cool, and I think Lloyd and Gary have been the representatives, so that would be nice. Was I bossing you around? It was. Okay. So, and if that doesn't work, I'll have, if Gary wants to do that, that'd be fine. So, but there is going to be quite a celebration, and Machi Sarah, who is quite funny, and the mayor and stuff's going to be there. So I thought it'd be pretty cool if we got representative or represented by one of our representatives of the fairgrounds. So anyway, I did go to Texas, and I didn't show the superintendent their culverts there. But believe it or not, I was looking around at different stuff they have there, and their culverts are made of steel, and then they pour this cement over the top of it. I'll have to show you guys a picture, but I thought that was pretty cool. And I was looking at the culverts. Being a commissioner, that's crazy. I'm on vacation. And then the other part was I went to the powwow, and it was amazing. But here was the cool thing: they had like a couple hundred contestants, but our powwow kicks butt. So I was pretty thinking we were pretty awesome in South Dakota for how we represent and how Whitney Rain County represents our powwow. Because if you go to a different one, our powwow is so organized, and it was cool being in Austin, Texas at the powwow. But I was just like, gosh, this is really cool, and I was very proud of our people from the powwow, Whitney, and how they put our powwow together. So also went to the NASCAR and some other stuff there, but that was very loud. So anyway, that's all I got. Lloyd, you're up.
Oh, no, I thought I was gonna be last this time. No, thank you. I attended a community health board meeting last week. It's been a very busy couple of weeks for myself. Apologize for not making it to the fireman's banquet. I had the intentions of doing it, but then we ended up having a water leak and it needed to be fixed. So that took a little precedence over that. But I think I always like they do a good job there, and I appreciate that you guys went there and representatives. One of the things I did at our board meeting for community health was we started discussing benefits and stuff, and I was going to send out an email to John and to Gary and Ron, because they're on the compensation, to give some thoughts on one thing that came up that just gave me an aha moment when we were going through budgets and so forth. And it had to do with personal time. What some of these other businesses are doing in town is a wellness bonus. And what they do is, I don't know if everybody's heard about it, but you're required so much throughout the year, and that you're required to keep 24 hours. They pay them out in like November, like in a bonus for about right around Christmas time, but you have to keep minimum 24 hours in case something happens. It just made me think of all the stuff that we've had going on with times of service and bonus. It's an opportunity to be able to budget properly that way. And not only that, I thought as employees, I don't know what their thoughts are. That's why I'm bringing it up now, so they can give some input of a bonus yearly instead of saving it and losing 40% at the end of your retirement. I mean, it builds up, but it's a different option that a person could do. You know, they pretty much get one day they could cash in as a bonus. So I thought that was neat. I'll still send out an email, but I just wanted to kind of bring that up a little bit. They call it a wellness bonus is what they do. If you don't use them, you can cash them in at the end of the year. I just thought as far as budgeting, it was a pretty cool idea, and maybe the employees will like it, maybe they don't. I don't know, but it's just something I'd like the compensation committee to probably talk about. But otherwise, that's probably about all I really did for attendance of reporting.
My turn.
Yes, sir. Commissioner DeSanto.
Okay, I too attended the firefighter appreciation night, and it was fantastic. And boy, I'll just tell you, we've got a great crew of volunteer firefighters, no doubt about it. And I appreciate everything that they do. Also attended the conservation district meeting in Custer. Had several conservation districts together, and our own weed and pest did the presentation. And basically, what the conservation district meeting was all about, it was a 4-hour meeting, was how the weed and pest, National Forest Service, state parks, the all the conservation districts and the wildfire work together to manage our sustainable forests, and how they communicate with one another, how they work with one another to get grants and that kind of stuff to maintain our sustainable forest. How they report to one another between different organizations so that they can achieve the best efficiency that they can. And I learned a lot. There was a good number of people there. I think probably in the range of about 35 different representatives from different groups. And like I said, they did a fantastic job of all talking about what they were busy working on right now, and how they could work with one another to keep our sustainable forests. They focused on the end, or it's not over with yet, but the beetle problem that we just went through for the past 15 years or 12 years, and that it comes about every 30 years. So they're already starting to work on addressing that problem when it comes again 30 years from now. And so that was interesting as well. And then some of the other, of course, the invasive weeds that are taking over a lot of the forest ground, how we're going to get a grip on that, and how we're going to prevent wildfires with all of the downed trees from the beetle kill. The fuel up there in the hills is insane. So there's a couple of companies that are possibly going to be looking at using the slash piles as a source for biofuel. And I don't have enough information to really go into a lot of detail, but I believe there's a company that's moving into town here that's going to be taking those slash piles, grinding them up, and using them as biofuel.
Well, Mark, didn't someone do that before, or wasn't that used before? Is there someone else already that was doing that, or did I see it in a different state?
Not here that I know of.
Deadwood.
Deadwood?
Deadwood Biofuels is what it was called.
Really?
I don't know if they're still in business, but I found paperwork in the commission office from years and years ago.
About slash piles, and
Well,
I
I don't know
remember
if it was
hearing
slash
about it.
files. I just know the business name of Deadwood Biofuels.
I'll be darned. Well, I didn't.
North of Newcastle in Wyoming. I don't think slash piles, I think it was pulpwood. I don't know if they're still in existence.
Yeah, now I know that there were companies using pulpwood, and but now basically the downfall and the felled trees and stuff like that, the slash piles, which is what we have a huge problem with right now, is what are we going to do with all these slash piles?
I don't know if I saw it in some other state, but they were slash piles wherever I saw it, and they were using, maybe I saw it on PBS, because I watch a lot of stuff on PBS. Maybe that's where I saw it, and they were making it into this incredible stuff. I can't remember. I just remember them using slash piles and turning it into something else.
Good.
Which is pretty cool.
Well, we have a company moving here to the
That's
Black
awesome.
Hills that's gonna do that. So
Awesome.
I think that's awesome. So yeah, that's all about it for me.
You get one of these?
Okay. I'd also like to thank Holly and everybody who brought something for lunch today. That's really nice. We had some really good food, some good zucchini bread, and there's some salad back there, and Holly brought soup, and I appreciate everybody that brings something for us. I always call it halftime, but it's not halftime. It's lunch. Thank you very much. Next, items for the public. Sir, did you want to speak? We feel a lot of. We feel a lot of love. Thank you, sir. You have a good day, sir.
Don't
Thank
forget
you.
vouchers, Madam Chair.
Approval of the vouchers, 363,242.45, please.
Make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Drews, motion. Second.
Second.
By Ross Connect. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next is executive session for SDCL 1-25-2-3 and 125-2-1.
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Moved by
Second.
Drews. Second by Ross Connect. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by
DeSanto?
DeSanto, second by Drews. And first, we'll have a motion two by Ron.
Do we,
No, you need to vote on that, please.
we got to vote
Oh.
on it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Motion two, please.
I move to place Joe Miller, Highway Superintendent, at grade 25, step 5, for a bi-weekly rate of $3,291.20, effective December the 15th, 2019.
Motion made by Ron. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Drews. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Motion three by Gary.
Okay. I make a motion to move Kaylee Selby to the position of engineer technician effective September 22nd, 2019, at a rate of $20.90 an hour, and also authorize the auditor's office to grant back pay to that date for hours worked in the new position.
Motion by Gary.
Second.
Second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Motion four by Lloyd, please.
Move to grant Deborah Grody 2 additional performance steps outside the county wage policy, placing her at a grade 17, step 18, at an hourly rate of $28.47, effective November 17, 2019.
Second.
Made by LaCroy, second by Ross Connect. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Motion to adjourn, please.
I move to adjourn.
By Ross Connect. Second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.